Yeah, and are we're live. Okay.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this again. And good morning, Daniel. Thanks for jumping on with us this
Morning,
morning, buddy.
man.
What's happening? What is happening there? What we're on? We're on Wednesday. We're hitting week 7,
That's
or
it.
session 7 of our level 2 course. You know, we've had just over a week now, week and a half of things starting to open up again. Some restrictions being lifted.
Yep.
You know, been a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways, hasn't it? You know, I mean, I haven't rushed back to any beer gardens, I haven't been to any restaurants yet or
Same.
anything like that. But you know what? Even just the footpaths that I've been walking on are quieter because people's got other places to be, you know,
Yeah.
around the shop, that sort of thing. So it's sort of like dispersed people a little bit more.
No, you're
So
right. Yeah, it's just the
I'm sure.
same.
Mm, I'm
Same
sure
up
places
outside.
like the seafront have been absolutely slammed over
Oh,
Sunderland Way
probably. Yeah.
when it's been nice. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, but of course, it just gives people more option and different places to be, doesn't it? You know, so yeah, hopefully everybody's finding that, like I say, a little bit of a breath of fresh air, and of course everybody's staying safe and doing the stuff that we still need to be doing for
Yeah.
sure. Um, because of course, nice and slow, steady away, and hopefully this will be a one way street to normality again, as long as we do it nice and steady. So, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Nice to see the sunshine a little bit the last week. We had snow last week. We had
Never.
snow over this way at Easter. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I
Didn't
couldn't
believe
believe
it.
it. Yeah, so yeah, it's nice to have the sun a little bit more as they get out and about a little bit more,
100%.
and of course puppies. I've got my puppy in for his second injection today, so we're out for walkies this week. So he's going to start learning what the word walkies means. So he's going to be a little ball of energy, and it's an excuse to get out a little bit more as well, isn't it? You know, I know some of our learners have got sort of dogs, and even other responsibilities like kids can help you get out a little bit more. Of
Totally.
course,
Yeah.
that's when it comes to getting a dog and stuff like that. That's not really the reason to go and get one. You know,
Mhm.
it is a big commitment, a big responsibility. You know, but yeah, we're looking forward to have an excuse to get out, rain or shine. You know, because he doesn't care whether it's raining or not. If you don't take him out, he's going to wee on the carpet. So we got to stay one step ahead. So yeah, looking forward to that. And yeah, like I say, I'm more of a summer guy myself. I don't mind spring and autumn. Winters, I just don't do the cold. Like I'm not a winter
I
guy at
know. Me
all.
neither
So
at all, man.
yeah, yeah, nice to hopefully be rolling back around towards some barbecue weather if we're lucky enough to get some.
Definitely. I mean,
So go on, bud.
I struggle to like fully believe people who say that winter's the favorite holiday. I mean, like, I don't know. It's like I don't actually know, mate. I can't because it's just it's not nice to be in. It like hurts to be in like that cold weather. So whereas like the
Yeah,
sun, like
yeah.
it feels nice. Like it literally feels nice to be in the warm sun. So I don't
Like,
know.
yeah, yeah. If I'm gonna get up and go for a walk, I don't want to have to put 4 layers on. You know,
Exactly.
like I just want to walk out the door in shorts and a t-shirt, and that'd do me. You know, it
Exactly.
is nice getting wrapped up, and you know what? I love it when it snows. It's lovely. It's
Yeah.
lovely, but when you're sat inside looking out at it, you know, when of course when you're traveling to work and when you've got to go out and about and stuff like that, it is just something that I don't want to have to really deal with, you know. Whereas, you know, same again, speaking to some of our learners, speaking to some of you guys as well, I know that we prefer, or some of you do prefer it a little bit colder, you know. Um, so if that is the case, make the most of spring while it is still a little bit cooler, you know, because it is only going to get warmer. Get yourself out and about for some walks now before it gets too warm, because I do sort of understand that, you know, where it's like it's nice to be in the sun, but you don't want it so warm where it's uncomfortable to go for a walk,
Oh,
or it's
totally.
uncomfortable to go and try and play like a game of five-a-side, or go and shoot some hoops, or
Hmm.
even just meet up with somebody outside. You know, as I'm sure a lot of us are looking forward to doing this summer. Um,
Right.
but you
Yeah.
know,
So yeah, you're totally right, dude. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I wonder, right? Like I think that as a country we have some of the worst weather in the world, right? Because not like it's okay because at least we do have this summer, right? But there's like if you think about somewhere like Scandinavia, right? Like somewhere like a lot of like Finland is always going to be really cold, or Norway, and there's a lot of snow. But in England, it's like rain is probably the most kind of common weather that we get, and I think that that's such a miserable weather to see. Like there's like it's all England's always associated with like grey, rainy kind of cloudy days, and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's not the best. I just had a little Google there of like where's the worst weather in the world, and nothing come up too conclusive here. But I'll dig into that a bit more afterwards.
Definitely, man, definitely. I'm just getting caught up with the chat there. Sue says, "Nice haircut, man." See, in a
Thank
good
you.
mental state. Finally got to see my mum for the first time since January last year. That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing that you've finally been able to sort of do that safely as well. I'm guessing that she's at least vaccinated by now, if not yourself, Sue. She says, "Try living in concert, lad. You get every kind of weather in one day." Do you know what? Yeah, that sounds about right at the minute. I'm going to win the lottery, then I can spend winter abroad. That's the dream, isn't it? That's the dream. That's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah, definitely,
Well,
guys.
in Australia, it's like winter for them now, and then when it's our winter, it's their summer. So I know that a lot of people switch. Don't they? A lot of people go to Australia
Yeah,
in winter because it's like hot.
yeah, right in the middle of their summer, and then you come back right in the middle of our winter.
That's
It's
right.
brutal,
Yeah.
man. That's got to be brutal, yeah. But you know what? It'd be a nice change. But I tell you what, I bet their winter doesn't look anything like ours.
God, no.
You know, but that's definitely the dream. Do you know what? I find the sun motivating. Do you know what I mean? If I wake up and it's sunny outside, I'm like, right, bam, what am I going to do today? What's going on? You wake up and it's raining, especially at the minute. I'm like, oh, I'm inside all day, man.
Well,
Do you
it's
know what I
actually a
mean?
thing, isn't it? It's called SAD, seasonal affective disorder,
Yes.
and like
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
actually get like depressed when it's rainy and cold and miserable.
Yeah, I think it's like a sunlight, of course, like a vitamin D,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
just compounded in everybody over the last year, not being out and about quite as much. So, it'll be really sort of interesting to know how maybe elevated those numbers and the people sort of feeling that and suffering from those sort of symptoms has been this last winter.
Hmm.
I know you can even get certain plug-in lamps and stuff like that sort of emulate like a bright light, and you just sit there with your eyes closed, and it like it's meant to help with sort of like your dopamine and
I've
your
heard
own
about that
hormones
actually.
and stuff like that. Yeah, something to I would recommend, if you do sort of get on a bit of a downer over winter, because like I say, I love the sunshine. I prefer the sunshine. And you know what? We all have days, I'm sure, where we think, oh, do you know what, not today. But of course, we're all human. We're all human, and we're all very very similar in a lot of ways, aren't we? But right, let's dive in with this session then. Let's get a start. Oh, Gary's mentioned your haircut as well, man.
Cheers,
Tell
Kevin.
you,
Yeah.
you're just looking fly this morning, buddy. You
Yeah.
you may as well do the session. People's not going to be able to take their eyes off your new do, man, off your new pro.
Yeah.
Class. Okay, guys. So where are we? Sue says it's called a sunbed, Rob. Yeah. Do you know what? I did use sunbeds a little bit when I was younger. But then of course you see the really extreme people that are using them all the time, and they look like a leather handbag, where because you get
True,
all of these
actually.
you get all the UV light and stuff like that as well, don't you? Which
Yeah.
which in a lot of ways can be damaging to your cells. Whereas these sad lamps that we're on about, they only give off just like a bright light. There's no other rays or anything that come with them. It's almost like a placebo effect, tricking your brain into thinking it is sunnier and it is brighter, and all the chemicals in your body that are changing are coming from internally rather than absorbing anything from the sun itself. But some beds would probably help with that sort of or could potentially help with that seasonal affective disorder as well, but of course not everybody wants to be using some beds, and there are people out there who probably shouldn't, who would be advised against using some beds as well. So it's nice to know that there's options both ways. Definitely.
I'm sure that in like I think it's Alaska, that's only like in a certain season. So like so it says right, yes, we'll get this right. In Alaska, in a certain season, right, the day is 24 hours long. There's nearly 22 hours of daylight. So that
Really?
people start to go insane, and then because it's like light all day, like
Yeah.
so like there's no
Like
it's
trying to get to sleep. Yeah.
yeah, because it messes up with people's body clocks and stuff. Because
Well,
it's
it
like
will. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. And I know that I think it's Alaska as well. That obviously the flip side of that coin is I think they have like ridiculously long days, like of darkness. Sorry, they have ridiculously long nights.
yeah,
At a certain time of year. I think, and you know what? I think it's the only Tarantino film I've never seen, From Dusk Till Dawn. But I think that's their plan, isn't it? Go to somewhere where it's sunny all the time and no vampires. You
Right,
know,
yeah,
but
yeah. It's been a long time since I saw it, yeah, but yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
yeah, I think that is the plan. But you know what? That would mess with me so badly. Do you know what I mean? If like you're going from 24 hours of dark into 24 hours of light, like you say, our sort of body clocks would be absolutely all over the place. Definitely. I would struggle during the dark seasons for sure.
Oh man, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
All right then, guys. So, just a little bit of a recap on last week. If for whatever reason you missed the session, or you know, sometimes weeks seem like a really long time, and you're thinking, right, well, like, wow, was that just last week? You know, time sort of blended and sort of warped a little bit throughout lockdown. But again, hopefully, you know, that'll be starting to feel a little bit more normal, and things will, like I say, gradually just start to feel a little bit more normal as time goes on. So we were looking at circuit training. So we were looking at body weight training that we could do, body weight exercises. We were looking at exercises with a bit of kit that we could do, because of course in your training sessions, your circuit cards that we're putting together, you're going to be doing a mix of both. You know, we're going to make sure that we've got some body weight, some with other bits of kit, you know, be that sort of kettlebells, cones, skipping ropes, ladders, whatever it's going to be. And then, of course, we always want to make sure that our exercise and our fitness is sustainable. One of the best ways that we can do that is making sure that we're doing it safely and not going to pick up any sort of avoidable injuries, that sort of thing. So we were looking at health and safety when it comes to these bits of fitness kit. We were looking at how to maintain them, how to store them safely so they're out of the way. And of course, just trying to make the whole fitness environment that you're going to be in or potentially going to be in as safe as possible, you know. Not only but of course to protect yourself if you're the person delivering the fitness class or the session or whatever it might be, but of course, again, you know, coming back to as a member, as somebody who's doing these fitness classes, you don't want to pick up an injury that was avoidable and have to miss like 3 months, 6 months, or whatever it's going to be, and you actually end up further back than when you started. You know, there's a lot to be said against this no pain, no gain mentality. You know, there's definitely a right sort of pain, a wrong sort of pain. When you've been training for a little while, I think you do start to pick up on what that difference is, and you just come to understand your own body a little bit. You know, you've got to listen to your own body. And like I say, at the end of the day, consistency is key, and we can't be consistent. Sorry, if we're picking up injuries that we maybe could have avoided that are going to give you setbacks. You know, the old 1 step forward, 2 step backs isn't motivational for anybody. You know. And then we had a little look, at different muscles, mainly the skeletal muscles that we did last week. Now, again, just to recap a little bit, so skeletal muscles are the only muscles in our body that we have control over. And that is muscles that attach to your skeleton, funnily enough. So the muscles that we use to move your bones through whatever range of movement that it is that we're going to do, because pretty much that's what we're doing at the end of the day, isn't it? You know, we're sending signals into our muscles contract and pull our skeleton into whatever shape that we want. I think sometimes it feels like we're moving our skeleton and our bones, but we're never actually doing that. You know, it's just really, really complex signals and sort of electrical pulses from your brain and through your nervous system that's of course pulling your body into the shape that we're telling it that we want to be in. And of course, today we're going to look into things a little bit more, a different kind of muscle in our body that we don't actually have any control over, you know, which again, I think when we think of muscles, we think straight away the ones that we could see in the mirror, the ones that we could maybe flex, the ones that we can work and develop in the gym and visually see developing and getting definition and that sort of thing, and coming through when we reduce our body composition, you know, seeing more definition there as well, when there is actually a lot more muscle in the body that we might not actually think about quite so much or as muscle, to be honest. So yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a deeper dive into that this morning, and like I say, just keep working through. So if your circuit cards are done and you're ready to sort of deliver them, like I mentioned last week, you can either just take pictures and send them over, and I can just have a little bit of a look through and email you some feedback, or if you prefer to, we can book a one-to-one Zoom call and you can actually sort of spend 10-15 minutes talking me through your circuit card, you know, and actually presenting them, if you would rather do it that way, you know. So again, something to start thinking about this week. Of course, we're coming towards the end of the course. We've got, I think, three sessions left. So as soon as those circuit cards are done, we can get them done, either delivered through Zoom or just pictures and sort of sent over through email. So that is something that we can think about over the course of this week. But let's get into what we're actually going to cover today. So if you can just roll on to the next slide for us,
Yeah, of
please,
course,
buddy.
man.
So we've got like I mentioned, we've got skeletal muscles that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking a little bit again, like I mentioned, at cardiac muscle and smooth muscle as well, which is our two main other categories. And we're going to have a look in a second at what those are, where they are, and what they do. And then we're going to be looking at some skills, you know, that are really important to sort of develop when it comes to working with somebody, especially in close proximity. If you are going to be one-to-one, you know, it's something that I've sort of mentioned over the duration of the course. I've found that you can have all the knowledge in the world, you know, you can read the books, you can do the courses, you can get the qualifications. The biggest thing that I found in the PT industry was your ability to translate information to the people that you're trying to explain it to, you know, not only what you expect from them, but why you expect it, why it's important, you know. I don't know whether that's just me as an individual, because if I'm told to do something, you know, I like to know why, you know. If I'm told something's urgent, I like to know why it's urgent, not to be awkward, just to understand the situation a little bit more, so I can prioritize things and apply myself that much better, you know. And it comes exactly the same when it comes to working one-on-one with somebody. If I'm saying to somebody, right, we're going to do this session, and then I set them away, and I'm like just looking at my phone, texting on my phone while they're doing a deadlift with their back like that. Do you know what I mean? Mate, I've seen PTs do it over the year. You know, I've seen them just sit away, go on, do that. Even if it's an exercise that they've done time and time again, without a little bit of correction, without, or push your chest out a little bit more, dip your hips a little bit more, you know, get a little bit lower. It's complacency. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of complacency in there. At the same time, you know, when it comes to first meeting somebody and that first potentially meeting a new client or a potential client, you know, because when it comes to the fitness industry, there's so many options out there. You're pretty much putting yourself across and saying, look, this is what I can offer, this is what I do. You know, again, the more I did it, the more I realized where I was better suited, the sort of clients that I worked better with, the sort of goals that I was better at helping people to get towards. You know, if somebody wanted to come on and put on five stone of lean mass, you know, I would redirect them elsewhere. You know, hypertrophy is that guy's thing, strength training is that guy's thing. If they preferred my style and my sort of mannerism and my approach, I would still take them under my wing, but I would say to them, look, this isn't my it's not my forte. Do you know what I mean? It's not my it's not my bag. It's not really where I feel strongest. Now again, like I say, every PT is going to have different styles. So I had some people when I was working at DW that would rather come and work with me, like I say, more because of my attitude and my approach, rather than the guy that was physically built the way that they wanted to look. You know, sometimes that can be a little bit intimidating, but of course at the end of the day, we're built how we're built, and our personality, and to an extent our physique, is our biggest selling tool, you know, when it comes to fitness. And like I say, we're going to be thinking about what skills are really important when it comes to conducting yourself professionally, you know, retaining clients, making that good first impression, and like I say, introducing yourself, building trust, making sure that, you know, even if somebody didn't sign up for your classes or they didn't sign up for personal training straight away, they've got a good first impression of you. You know, you might be the person that they come to when it comes to asking questions. You know, I feel like I've plateaued a little bit, you know, because that's something that we all go through. You know, we all get to the point where we're making progress, we're lifting heavier weights, we're putting weight on, we're losing weight, whatever it is, whatever our goals are, and all of a sudden it'll just slow down. You know, I don't know if you've ever had that, buddy, you know, when you've been training,
Big time.
it's like you hit a wall, don't you?
Plateau, man. Yeah, it's really common. Yeah, you just get to a certain point and you hit a hard plateau, and that's it. No matter whatever you do, you can't get past that certain, you know, like weight.
Yeah.
There's a million things you can do to go around it, but you don't want to risk injury at the same time. And it's always like, I'd always had stuff like that with I'd always hard plateau with bench, like really bad. That was always the one that I'd hard plateau with. For some reason, like bench would all it's always been my weakest lift. Like it always has. Like it always was better with squats or deadlift. And I'd always managed to get like some progression with them all the time. But I'd
Mhm.
always hard
Mhm.
plateau on bench, and it was always the one that was my weakest lift. Weirdly, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it kind of obviously talking sort of proportionally in like a relative sort of sense. You think with a bench press, you're using your pecs really,
Yeah.
your front delts are firing, but they're a small muscle, and you're using your tricep a little bit, but that tricep can only take over past a certain point,
Yeah.
So in comparison to a like a pull-in movement, be it sort of like a rack pull or even a pull-up,
Yeah.
you're using bigger muscle groups in
Yeah.
your lats, in your rhomboids, in your traps. Of course, squats, you've got pretty much every muscle from the waist down firing, and deadlifts are very similar as well. So it makes sense to be able to lift more weight through
Yeah.
those, I always worked under the impression that a body weight bench press is really good. A double body weight squat is really good, and a triple body weight deadlift is really good. So I just used to use those as benchmarks, even sitting at 60 kilograms, if you're deadlifting 180 kg, there's that's some going, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
100%.
But yeah, do you know what I mean? It's funny you say that, mate, because bench press was always where I used to struggle the most, and a little bit of frustration would creep in because I'm trying to target me pecs, but I know full well that I need to use my delts as well,
Yeah.
and my delts, I'd feel it in my delts more. And again, not to say that it wasn't proper form or anything like that, but I would get so frustrated at just trying to be like, look, this is meant to be a chest exercise. So I would actually swap it out and do sort of partial reps. So I'd do sort of like half the rep or half the top, the top half of the range for chest press, and then I'd come down and do the bottom half of the range of chest press, and then I'd maybe work through the full range as well, and just making sure that those pecs are firing a little bit more. There's other little sort of tricks that you can do, even if it's like burning your shoulders out first, you know what I mean? Burn out your front delts with some front raise before you start benching. You might not get as much weight, but you know that the pecs are going to be firing harder because your delts are already tired.
I used to do like
Again, when it comes to personal best, it's not really that ideal because you don't want any of your firing muscles to be tired really. But when it comes to activating the chest and the pec muscles, it did sometimes pay to have the like pre-exhaustion, we call it, make sure that the muscle the muscle that you're feeling sort of take over, try and burn it out a little bit more. It's still going to hurt throughout the set because it's already tired and it's trying to fire, but that's when your the muscle that you want to be the primary mover is going to kick in as the primary rather than sort of coasting on your delts doing a little bit of the work as well. So that when it came to actually stimulating the muscle fibers and burning the muscles out, that was the way that I used to sort of make sure I was hitting my chest. But again, strength training, personal bests, 1 rep max is a different sort of training, as you guys will know by now, when we're talking about different components of fitness, and that's why it pays to be so sort of specific. And that is where a good PT will come in, and it's essentially like the old it's almost like, you ever say that on Takeshi's Castle where they used to just run at the wall and like pick a door and only one of the doors would be like
just hit it in the wall
for them to go through. That's the way that I see a plateau. Like you're running and it's like which door am I going to aim myself at? Do I try this approach? Do I try this? Do I change my food? And a good PT will pretty much point you in the direction of the door that's going to get you through. Do you know what I mean? Like it'll be a case of, do you know what? This is the plateau. This is what's going on with you. This is what I would recommend. And of course, that comes with a little bit of experience. That comes with knowledge. But again, you want to put yourself in a position where people feel comfortable coming and asking you those questions, because it's not only a good chance to, again, build relationships and help people out, which is why we're PTing in the first place, but it is, of course, putting yourself forward and it's promoting yourself. And again, I've had people come in and do their inductions. I've mentioned PT to them. They've not been interested. 6 months later, they're thinking, do you know what? I want to take up some PT. Who am I going to pick for some PT? Who am I going to go to? Is it the PT that ignores me every time I walk past because I'm not paying them and I'm not a client? Or is it the PT that'll come over and have a big crack when he catches me in between sets? Or do you know what, has answered a couple of questions to do with nutrition or shown me a couple of different exercises? Of course, it's going to be the latter. That's the person that someone's going to seek out and try and sort of, again, build that relationship with and go on their fitness journey with.
Exactly.
And again, there's a lot of skills that are separate to the knowledge that you need. There's a lot of skills that are really, really important in helping you sort of be the right sort of PT, you know, or the right sort of fitness instructor. For all the bad PTs I've met over the years, you know, I've met 5 absolutely amazing ones. I've been really lucky, to be honest, to work with some of the professionals that I've worked with over the years, be it the guys at DW, or even just Mel. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously I started working with Mel in the fitness classes. I went and met her on one of her first aid courses because I needed my certificate renewing. And we sort of gelled from there. And like I say, before I know it, within a couple of months, I was running fitness classes for her, you know. And like I say, that's why I always did what I did, you know. That's why I absolutely loved it, being able to get the most out of people, push them on, help them sort of reach levels of their own sort of physical ability that they didn't even realize, or maybe even potentially thought that they were long past. Do you know what I mean? Be it a client who's in their mid-50s, who's sort of all of a sudden as fit and as active as they were in their 30s, you know, and it's almost like you've rolled the clock back 20 years for them. Absolutely amazing, you know. So again, like I say, there's a lot of skills that I feel like would have been handy for somebody to point out to me early doors and saying, right, you've got the knowledge, you've got the qualification, you need this as well, you know. Because I think I've mentioned before, there was a lad that I went through my PT course with, and he was so knowledgeable, mate. He'd just come out of university as well. He'd done like his sports science, straight into his level 3 personal training. He just didn't have the people skills to walk up to somebody and say, look, have you tried this? Do you know what I mean? Or even just to break the ice in an appropriate sort of way. He just didn't have that sort of. It's like I say, it's a skill, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's for all he wanted to be able to do it. He was a nice lad. He was a lovely lad to talk to. I don't know whether it was a little bit of confidence, just a little bit of sort of, even just like a little bit of flair or whatever it was. Or do you know what? I think within a month of joining the same gym that he joined me, he left and he was in a different sort of industry, on a different career path.
Fair enough, yeah.
You know, do you know what? It's not for everybody, buddy. There was times early doors when I questioned whether it was for me, truth be told.
Right.
But do you know what? Like I say, those people skills are just absolutely crucial in building your own client base, getting people's trust. Because at the end of the day, when you're saying to somebody, I know you don't feel like you can jump up onto this box, and I know you feel like you're going to trip and smash your shins and smash your face in or something like that, you know, you need that client's trust when you're saying, do you know what, I know you can do this as well, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we'll be looking at where it comes to stuff aside from the fitness stuff, you know, that can make or break a sort of, it's definitely a fitness professional. But we will like I say, we'll get into that in a little bit. If we can go on to the next slide, please, buddy. We're going to just sort of pull it back, tie in my last week's session, and just look at the muscular system a little bit more, because I'm sure I mean, I do it. You hear the word muscles, what do you think? You think the old biceps, you think Muscle Beach, you think flexing in the mirror, you think the Instagram selfies and all of that, you know. It might be that you're associating that with maybe, again, muscles that you can see in the mirror, muscles that you're thinking to yourself, okay, this machine tells me that I work this muscle, you know. Whereas, like I say, there's sort of other types of muscle in the body as well. So what are they? You know, we've got like I say, we've got 3 different types of muscle in the human body. We've looked at skeletal, so we've got smooth muscle as well, which is involuntary. It's totally involuntary. And we can see at the bottom of that slide there that those are kind of the 2 classifications of muscle that we've got, voluntary and involuntary. You know, do you control them, or do they sort of do their own thing? Do they function by themselves? And of course, the main example, or pretty much the example of smooth muscle, is our organs, believe it or not, you know, be it livers, kidneys, even lungs, you know, it all still counts as muscles. Lungs is a really good example to think of, you know. It expands, and then it contracts, it expands, then it contracts, and it kind of works exactly the same way as any other muscle in your body. You know, when we think about the bicep curl, you know, it contracts and the muscle gets shorter, it expands and gets longer, you know, and your lungs do exactly the same. And the only difference is that we don't necessarily control that, you know. Lungs is probably the one that you can control the most. You know, you can take a deep breath, you can hold your breath, that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, even when you're not thinking about it, it's going to do what it needs to do. Those lungs are going to work. They're going to keep you alive. You know, they're going to be working that respiratory system. The oxygen's are going to be coming in, whether you think about it or not, you know. If you're sat on the couch and you want to stand up, you have to make a conscious effort to do that. You know, if you're holding your breath and you want to start breathing, it's almost easier to stop holding your breath and start breathing again. That's the more natural state. Of course, when we're thinking about stomach, you don't control your stomach digesting your food. Fun fact about the stomach, actually, apparently the acid that's in your stomach, if you could apply it to your hand, it would go straight through. It would burn straight through. Like, your stomach acid
Crazy
is
that
that
actually.
strong. It's like some alien xenomorph stuff, that,
It
isn't it?
actually is.
Do you know what I mean? And I think to an extent that was actually part of the inspiration for that. There's one scene in the fourth Alien where they rip open two aliens rip open a third so that the blood dissolves through the floor, and they've actually got a way to escape the cell that they're in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think that is where some of the inspiration actually came from. But yeah, our stomach's going to digest by itself. We don't need to take time out of our day to sit, oh, do you know what? I'm going to sit and just tell my stomach to digest this meal. As
Yeah.
much as sometimes you might have a big meal and you do just need a couple of minutes and to pop the old button on the jeans and just sit back a little bit and let your stomach do its thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't necessarily tell it to. Your intestines, of course, your digestive tract, all of that sort of thing. It's always working. We're not in control of that at all, really, which makes it involuntary. The same as cardiac muscle, which is our third sort of classification, and that's entirely in the heart. It kind of makes sense when we think cardiac. If you've ever heard the term cardiac arrest, anything to do is of course to do with the heart. Now, the muscle is the heart. Sorry, in itself is a big muscle. Again, it sort of pulses, it contracts, it squeezes to force blood around the body. And of course, if you've ever seen sort of like an artery get cut or anything like that, I mean, even a lot of the films are realistic. The pressure that's in our heart and in our blood
Mhm.
and in our blood vessels is actually pretty intense and pretty high when you think about it. Which is again why we've got to keep our blood vessels as free from sort of trans fats and other blockages and stuff like that we need to think about. But yeah, at the end of the day, again, our heartbeat is something that we have control over to an extent. If you exercise, it's going to speed up. If you sort of rest and chill out and maybe meditate and do some deep breathing, by rights, it should slow down a little bit. But
Yeah.
your heart's not going to stop beating if you forget to tell it to beat. Again, whereas if you think about just lifting your arm above your head, bar certain nervous pulses and maybe certain tics and certain twitches, maybe it's to do with other compulsions and behavioral stuff. More often than not, your arm doesn't just fly up above your head for no reason. You tend to have to make that choice, and that's sort of the biggest difference. We can see even just from that list, skeletal muscle is it's the only muscle that we've got actually that is voluntary. So again, any muscle that you control, thinking a little bit less about your main sort of muscles, even the muscles that you use to smile, to frown, all of that sort of those facial muscles that are so small and sort of nuanced. They're all voluntary as well. It's all skeletal muscle, and that's the way that I remember those. The only ones that voluntary are the skeletal muscles. The ones that are attached to the bone. And like I say, that slide will be there to come back to. If you do want to come back and just sort of have a little bit of a refresher. Just if it's a case of just coming back and refreshing on the 3 different types or whatever it's going to be. So we've got a couple of slides coming up as well, that's just going to break those down a little bit more. So if we can just spin on to the next slide, please.
Absolutely,
buddy.
Mate, yeah.
So smooth muscle, just to dive into it a little bit more, is found in the walls of hollow organs such as your intestines, your stomach, just like I was saying a second ago. They're responsible for what we would call sort of housekeeping functions. Your body's just going to do its own thing, be it sort of the process that liquids go through to essentially produce urine, and of course everything to do with that, all that sort of fun stuff as well. So the muscular walls of your intestines are contracting to push food through your body as well. So we don't realize it. Sort of how a caterpillar moves, how it'll move like one section and then it almost pulses, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
it
does.
almost has like waves that ripple through its body.
Like,
and your intestine works exactly the same to sort of push food through. And again, that sort of movement, that's contractions that we're not even aware of happening. sort of goes on all the time.
I'm sure they say that if you spread your intestines out, it would feel like a full tennis court.
I think it would actually, yeah, it would
Crazy.
do. In fact, you know what, mate? I think it might even be longer than that. I think your lungs, if you stretched your lungs out all the way to maximum capacity to the point where the tissue was pretty much see-through, it was that thin, that would actually do a full-size tennis court as well.
Wow.
Let's have a look. Length of intestines.
That might be what I'm talking about. Then it might be the lungs. But
Yeah, I think intestines might actually be longer than that actually. I'm just trying to find something. Let's have a look. If you guys in the chat happen to know off the top of your head, if you've heard Mel mention it, by all means let us know. Let's have a look. Let's have a see.
breadth long.
The length of the small intestine can vary between 10 meters and 16 meters. So for comparison, a standard basketball hoop is 10 feet tall. So that's your small intestine. Coming up double how high a basketball hoop is. Let's have a look if we can see the large intestine. Let's get a look. Oh, so that's interesting. Fun fact for the day: the large intestine is smaller than the short intestine,
Wow.
or the small intestine. So I wonder if that's to do with the circumference of it, maybe, you know, sort of like the diameter rather than the length. The large intestine is about 5 feet long, so still 1.5 meters. So you think almost social distancing guidelines, really? Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine? Like, I need you to stay one large intestine length away, please. Yeah. No wonder we use we use sort of meters and stuff like that as well. So that is an interesting one. That's taken me by surprise a little bit as well. That the small intestine and the short intestine can actually be longer than the other. Yeah, so there we go, guys. Fun fact for the day. Every day is a school day. I'm always learning. We're always learning. I'm just going to get back to the chat there 2 seconds before we move on. Cool. Nice one. So if we can just roll on to the next slide, please, dude. Same again, just looking a little bit more at the cardiac muscle before we start to break down the skeletal muscles a little bit more. So you were sorry, bud?
Should be back in a sec, mate. I'm just going to...
Yeah, no worries, mate. I'll run through this next slide. So for our cardiac muscle, we've been through it a second ago. The cardiac muscle tissue works to keep your heart pumping through involuntary movements. It's one feature that differentiates it from the skeletal muscle tissue, which you can control. Yeah, so of course, like I was just saying, anything that's attached to your skeleton, biceps, pecs, glutes, quads, whatever it's going to be, we can control. The heart, we don't. It does this through specialized cell called pacemaker cells that actually control the contractions of your heart, which is, I'll try and hold off a sec because I'm sure Daniel will appreciate this one because, of course, that is where we get the name for a pacemaker in your heart. If you've got a irregular heartbeat, and you maybe have something like a little device put in, if you see on a roller coaster sort of safety, or at the airport where you're going through the metal detector and it's saying be aware if you've got a pacemaker. That's what we put in to help sort of stabilize heartbeat, and that's where the name actually comes from. Specialized cells called pacemakers that control the contractions of your heart, so you don't necessarily have to. And just making sure that everything's working in there the way it should be working. Okay, guys, so just waiting on Daniel getting back. When it comes to skeletal muscles, of course, we're thinking about the muscles that we move, probably the muscles that we're going to be training a little bit more in the gym, working harder in the gym, thinking about developing in the gym, as much as we should always be thinking about our cardiovascular system, our lungs and heart and muscles that we need to look after as well. We might, I'd say 99% of us, when we think about skeletal muscles and muscles in general, we're going to be thinking about these ones that we're going to talk about next. So you guys in the chat, do you have a favorite muscle group to exercise? You know, is there any if we've done the level 1 course, or if we've done any of the other previous media savvy courses, is there any of the any sort of the names of the muscles that you can remember from previous courses? You know, be it sort of the ones in your arms, the ones in your chest, and any of your core muscles. You know, because a lot of the time the names that we think of for these muscles aren't usually the proper name. You know, just for example, thinking about our thigh muscle, you know, we might be thinking about it as our thigh muscle in general, when really we have it's a muscle group called our quadriceps, and the name quadriceps comes from the fact that it's 4 separate muscles all working together through different ranges and stuff like that. So, yeah, our quadriceps and our thigh muscles are actually 4 muscles put together, you know. So again, yeah, is there any that you find that you sort of struggle to remember? Is there any that like I say is your favorite muscle groups to work out? Because like I say, there's a lot of different ones that sort of deviate from just the regular, or my chest muscle, my back muscle sort of thing. How are we doing, buddy? Are we good to rock?
Yeah, let's rock, man.
Spot on, mate. I actually just to pull it back, because I thought you would appreciate this one on the last slide on the cardiac one. I don't know whether you caught it. The cells that control the contraction of your heart are actually called pacemaker cells. So
Right.
that is where the name comes from for the pacemaker
For
and the device.
Pacemaker.
Yeah, that we put in to actually sort of stabilize the heartbeat and stuff like that, which I thought was really interesting, you know, because I think a pacemaker, and I hear, okay, it's setting the pace, do you know what I mean? It's setting the pace, and it's controlling the tempo of the heart, when no, it actually comes from the cells in the heart that actually control that contraction, which I thought was pretty interesting.
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It was something I'd never questioned, to be honest, where that came from.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, yeah, I had no idea. So that is interesting, definitely.
There you go, mate. There you go. All the trivia this morning, man. All the trivia.
That's it, man.
Okay, so we're on to like I say, we're onto the skeletal muscles. And those are the voluntary ones. So it's the only muscle tissue in the body that is voluntary. And they control every action that a person consciously performs. Like I say, that's smiling, shaking your head, bending over, standing up, sitting down, as much as it is press ups, squats, all of that sort of thing. It's all skeletal muscle. Which is, of course, why our resistance training and developing our muscles can actually help take strain off of bones and off of joints and off the skeleton, because the stronger your muscles are, the less strain it puts on your joints, you know, just sort of day to day. Most skeletal muscles are attached to 2 bones across a joint, you know. So again, thinking about the bicep, you know, just making sure on my camera that you guys can actually see what I'm doing. So with a bicep, it sort of attaches up here. So it's on the humerus and the forearm, and then it actually comes across the elbow joint onto your forearm, onto your radius and your ulna. And of course, when that contracts, that is what pulls these muscles closer to there, you know. So yeah, that is attached across a joint, and like I say, to help us with movement, pretty much. That's what our skeletal muscles do. They help us move. Our bones are there with the joints in the way that they're sort of connected, that sort of predetermine the way that our bones and our body should move and can move. But then it's our skeletal muscles that actually carry out the task, you know, or carry out that motor task, whatever it might be.
I think that yeah, it's one of my friend's dads, because I know you talked about bicep there, like his bicep tore off, like he was doing a curl and his bicep like snapped and it like tore off, so it like went up.
Yeah.
Like,
oh dear.
And he literally ended up getting. He still can train now and he works out, but he ended up getting like a lot of compensation because he had a surgery, emergency surgery, to reattach his bicep, and they put it on backwards.
No, what?
So they did it backwards. So like when he tensed his arm, he couldn't like tense his arm properly, and it would like contract the opposite way. So he had to go in surgery and get it redone again.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
So dear, what an ordeal, man! What an ordeal.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very common injury, especially when you look at like strongman competitions when they do like Atlas stones and stuff like that. Like a lot of
Mhm,
people
mhm,
tore the bicep
mhm.
on that.
Yeah, because they go black pretty much, don't they? They go black pretty much instantly.
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of these injuries do anyway. Yeah, I've seen like not thankfully touch wood, never any of my clients or anything like that, but even just online in videos in documentaries, I've seen pecs tear. Do you know what I mean? Be it even sort of hamstrings tear. There was one basketball player last year who was sort of coming back from one injury, a bloke called you probably know him, buddy, DeMarcus Cousins.
Right. Yes.
And
Yeah.
and he was in fact, no, it was the season before when he just came back and they were in the playoffs. He was running down the court and he planted his foot, and in the footage you can see his quadricep tear and just roll up his body. You could see it roll up under the skin and just like it's not attached to where it should be.
Wow.
And of course, when something's so elastic and it snaps, like you see, it just rolls up or it moves upwards. And on the play and on the footage, you can actually see the moment that he planted his foot. You could see the tear happen, and you just watch this muscle sort of recoil up his leg, almost like when when you've got a tape measure out and you sort of just release it and it just winds in.
Yeah.
That was exactly what it was like, and it's painful to watch. Obviously, it's really
Rough one.
painful to watch. But it's really sort of I think because when we look at the textbooks and when we look at diagrams and stuff like that, everything's in working order and where it should be and pretty much perfect and pretty idyllic really. Whereas when we're coming to these injuries and stuff like that, it's interesting and it's important to think about what's actually going on,
Mm-hmm.
within the body, when it comes to we'll get a look at the Achilles muscle in a second when we look at the
Oh
flip side
yeah.
of this guy. When an Achilles goes, that's one thing. So he's sort of done his Achilles. He can't run, he can't jump, that sort of thing. When we look at what the Achilles is and where it is, in a second we'll realize how like tearing that or that snapping will just completely incapacitate pretty much one leg. It is insane. But yeah, that is how most of these muscles are attached over a joint, which of course makes them more prone to injury, which is again why we need to make sure that we're doing everything as safely as possible, because like I say, there's spraining an ankle, and of course there's different degrees of sprain as well. But there's spraining an ankle where you can walk it off and be back to stuff in a couple of weeks. Then you're talking tears and actual sort of rest time with your feet up and no weight bearing and stuff like that. So it's really hard to chase our goals and stay fit and active when that. So again, we need to make sure that we're just keeping safe while we're doing all this sort of stuff and chasing our goals as well. Okay, buddy. So if we can go to the next slide, we're just going to get a look at the bulk or the majority of or the main muscles that are on the anterior of the body or on the front of the body. So we're talking obviously pectorals that we can see on the chest, which sort of attach to the sternum, right down the middle of the chest, protecting the rib cage. We can see where those pecs are. Our abdominals or our abs, as you've probably heard them called before. We can see a sort of laid over the guy's midriff. Fun fact with the abs is, and I might have mentioned it before, it's not actually one sheet of muscle which has got six pack on. It's two sheets that sit side by side that can sometimes be sort of off center. So that's why if you've ever seen anybody with abs, I mean, you see some athletes who've got abs that are absolutely shredded to death.
Yeah.
But they're like slightly off center, one side might be higher than the other, and that's just where that comes from. Which is why when women are pregnant, sometimes as their stomach expands, it'll actually open up, and you can put your fingers between the abs.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty mind blowing, to be
That
honest.
sounds
Actually,
crazy. Yeah.
where the abs have opened up that much, where you can sort of feel the separation in the gap down the middle. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is actually insane. But yeah, that's obviously why you get like people with abs which aren't symmetrical, like the asymmetrical, because like
Yeah.
they grow differently. You get people who have like a really defined 4-pack, but then you get people who have like a 12-pack, and it's like
Yes.
it's just
Yeah. You see some guys, especially in the Olympia and some of the bodybuilding competitions, who pretty much look like this guy here, but with a little bit of skin over the top, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. I know.
When it comes to the muscle definition, and of course, when they're getting on stage, they'll dehydrate themselves to get their almost like shrink wrap their skin to their body, isn't it? And
Yeah.
actually sort of like get them to hug the muscles better and get them to pull through. But yeah, that's a really good point, buddy. You know. So like you say, some people have like you say a really defined 4-pack. Some people get 8. Some people have just got like the oblique muscles coming in as well. And you know what, one of the biggest myths I would ever hear would be from people and be like saying, oh, I don't have any abs. It's like, yeah you do, you might just
hid under a
have
layer of fat.
exactly, more often than not. And you know what, buddy, it doesn't take a high percentage of body fat to start obscuring your abs a little bit. So that is where, when I've had people say to me over the years, like, oh, I can't wait to get rid of this stomach, I'm doing sit-ups every day. That's not conducive to where you actually want to actually end up. What you'd be better off be doing. There is a saying, isn't there? Abs are made in the kitchen, not the gym.
Yeah, I think Arnie said that, right?
Yeah, I think so. They all put the cookie down. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, that is normally the case. Now,
No.
class. But yeah, that is usually where when it comes to abs training. And if I've had clients come to me over the years and say, look, I've got 3 weeks, I know I can only do so much, but I'd like to bring my abs through as much as I can. The focus would be nutrition. There's only so many sit-ups and crunches and planks you can do in 3 weeks. Your nutrition's going to be your make or break where it comes to bringing your abs through, for sure.
True.
Definitely. And the same with a lot of muscle definition, to be honest. Guys like Eddie Hall, Tyson Fury, they've got a lot of muscle there. It's just not as defined as somebody like a Phil Heath or an Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was trying to show off their muscles as much as possible visually. Strong men need the calories and the extra mass behind them because they're trying to show off their muscles and their function and what they can actually do. So again, different components of fitness, different types of training, and different types of nutrition will come with that. Okay, so we've got a bicep, which is going to be probably one that people are a little bit more familiar with. It is, of course, the one that sits on the sort of inside of your upper arm. Now, the bicep is a funny one because people, do you know what? When it comes to wanting bigger arms, people are always keen to jump in and start doing bicep curls. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be it wanting the old Hulk Hogan 24-inch pythons. Yeah. But it's not always the best place to start. The word the bicep comes from the fact that it is 2 muscles that usually work together. So, of course, 2 exactly the same as bipedal when we're talking about organisms and stuff that walks on 2 feet or 2 limbs. That is where the term comes from for bicep. Now, by that very nature, a tricep is made of 3 muscles or 3 muscle heads. So that actually makes up a bigger portion of your arm. So with a lot of people, working your triceps will actually make your arms look thicker, fuller, and give them a lot more size. Working your triceps definitely at the same time as your biceps, you'll get a lot more growth rather than just hammering the biceps. So yeah, that is where that comes from. We've got bicep, like I say, 2 heads, tricep is 3, and then of course moving down to the next one, quadriceps is in the sort of the femur, the upper leg. And that is the biggest muscle group in the body, actually, your quadriceps. Not the biggest singular muscle that goes to the glute or to the booty, pretty much. Whereas, the quadriceps are the biggest muscle group, which sort of tying back into what we were on about earlier on. That explains why you can move so much more weight through a squat than you can with a bicep curl. With a squat, you're using pretty much all of those muscles from the waist down, like I sort of mentioned. Whereas a bicep, you've got these 2 muscles here firing, and when they get tired, there's not really any other muscle that's going to come and help out, and that's a big sort of difference between what we call a compound exercise and an isolation exercise. And it also sort of shines light on why doing something like a squat gets you out of breath more than a bicep curl. Because we're stimulating more muscle, the body has to work harder to get the oxygen round to that muscle that's working. A muscle won't work if there's no oxygen there. So of course that is where the heart rate comes up. We're stimulating more muscle, we're burning more calories, which makes sense when you look at how much muscle is in the lower body and in the legs, as opposed to if we were doing like I say a bicep curl, or even like a front raise for your shoulders or something.
Yeah.
It's small muscles, which doesn't stimulate as much muscle, which doesn't burn as much calories at the end of the day. So yeah, your deltoid is your last one. I just sort of touched on it. It is it's your shoulder muscle. Now we've got three different deltoids. We've sort of got the anterior, which is at the front, the posterior, which is at the back, and we've got the lateral one, which is at the side. Or you might heard it call it your medial delt or something like that. So again, the different heads of a muscle, pretty much, they're going to affect different ranges. If you stand with your arms by your side and bring them up in front of you, sort of at a high level, nice and straight, you can feel that is the front of your shoulder working.
Yeah.
Whereas if you stand with your arms by your side and bring them out to the side, that's going to be sort of like that lateral or that medial portion of your delt working. And the same again, if you've got your arms sort of if you've got it up at eye level and you bring it round to it's almost behind you, that's your rear deltoid that's pulling them into that position, So when it comes to any sort of pulling movement, we tend to be working the rear delt on the back of the shoulder as well, which is it's a small muscle and it is really hard to isolate, but it's easy to bring into a lot of the big pulling movements again, which is why you might be better off doing stuff like rack pulls, and sort of seated rows and stuff like that, as opposed to really just trying to isolate such a small muscle, just stimulate it through a compound exercise. But yeah, those are pretty much the majority down the front of the body. Of course, down the front of our legs, or from the knee down, it's pretty much our shin bone, isn't it? If you've ever walked into the coffee table in the middle of the night, there's not much muscle for padding on the front of your legs, mate. Definitely not.
It's like pure bone, isn't it? It's like
it is brutal, and that's what I'm saying. Like when I've seen people go to do a box jump and not quite make it, and like, oh mate, you just bang your shins and scrape them all the way down. It's not a good time.
I told you before, like they did like I don't know if you've ever seen those. I don't know if it's on anymore, but it used to be a show called like Sports Science, and they would bring in like athletes and they would analyze like certain stuff about them. It was really really good actually. They would always bring in like a lot of fighters and stuff like that, and like they would do like certain tests on them. They did one on like I think he was like a Muay Thai fighter or something, and it's like, why can they kick something like so hard? And if you ever watch like some of the Thai boxers and stuff, they'll kick like branches of wood and they can like knock trees down. And what it does is, because they've done it from like such a young age, it's like it starts to cause loads of micro fractures over the bone. So basically the bone has these mini fractures all the time, and then it starts to heal and calcify. So the bone just becomes like really, really hard. So like when they're in a fight and they can kick someone, it's like it's still gonna hurt, but that bone's become like even harder for them. So like they're like shins are like rock solid. I don't think everybody can do it, and I think it's obviously like it has to be a certain thing, because I think if most people do that, they're just going to end up super injured. So obviously it's definitely not a good idea. I mean, maybe if you saw the Van Damme movie Kickboxer, that's what he does in that. He's kicking the tree to strengthen his leg. And, but yeah, they actually did tests on it, and they cause these microfractures, which basically calcify it and make it stronger.
That's really interesting.
So yeah, and I mean, you see sometimes it's some of the most horrific injuries I've ever seen in UFC. Anderson Silva, when he went to kick Chris Weidman, and he basically, when you check a leg kick, the one leg's coming that way to kick you, and then all the other person needs to do is they lift their shin up and turn it towards them. So instead of hitting the calf, it's shin on shin. But because the impact's coming that way, it just hits straight into their shin. So obviously it hurts for the person who's blocking it, but it's going to be a lot worse for the person kicking. And that's what Chris Weidman did, and Anderson Silva's leg just snapped in half. And so it was horrible, one of the worst injuries I've ever seen.
I've seen that injury, and I didn't realize it had come from a guy essentially countering.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that was a legitimate sort of done technique or like a countering style. Yeah, that's really interesting. That and do you know what? Like you say, a lot of the injuries that I've seen in sort of like the combat sports, if not as they're kicking, as they go to plant the leg that they've just kicked with.
Yeah.
then it'll buckle or maybe it's hyperextend or the shin will just split down the middle. Whether there's been a fracture caused on the impact in the first place, but honestly, the amount of times you go and it's when they go to put the weight back on that leg again and it just buckles underneath them.
There's
Yeah,
a
it's nasty stuff. Like
there's a really interesting kind of thing at the moment where like there's this new type of kick, and it's like whether it usually when people would be doing leg kicks, they're always kicking the thigh, or they'll kick the lower side of the leg, but they would
Mhm.
not target the calf. And now people are doing these calf kicks where they're like targeting the calf specifically, and it's
Yeah,
totally um debilitating people. If you watch Conor McGregor's last fight, he never really experienced that before, and Dustin Poirier hit him with a calf kick, and it just took his leg out, and it really
yeah,
won him the fight basically because Conor couldn't put any pressure on that leg, and then it just allowed Dustin to go in and just start like doing work on him really. But
yeah.
it's that's the thing now. It's these kicks they can just take like one kick if it hits them in the right place, they can just take them out the game.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I'm sure we've all had it where you stand up and you've got pins and needles and you've got a dead leg. Like, if
yeah,
if it's
yeah,
if it's in your calf, you're not going far in a hurry, are
yeah,
you?
exactly.
Whereas, yeah, if someone has like deliberately kicked you in your calf as hard as they can, it's gonna slow you down. It's the
Yeah,
same as any, isn't it? It's the same
yeah,
with the boxing. If you can't move your feet, you're like you're a stationary target, aren't you? You know?
exactly. Yeah, man. I
Yeah.
mean,
So it's
which we saw
all the
that with
tactics.
Ben Askren last weekend. I don't know if you saw that, but that that was a little bit of that. Oh
No, no, no.
man, he
Was that
fought.
him? Big Jake Paul? Was it Jake Paul?
Yeah, he fought
Yeah.
Jake Paul mid. It was like it was worse than bad. It was, it was
Was it
something else.
really?
Well, yeah, he
Was it
looked.
really? Yeah.
Oh man, he was dreadful. Yeah, there was like he didn't even have like his guard up. Basically, he had like an open guard. He was moving so slowly, and like yeah, he had like zero to no striking.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, yeah, I missed it. I've seen memes. I've seen memes, mate. But yeah, it's
decorated
I
Olympian.
really, yeah,
Well, he's an
yeah,
Olympic wrestler, and
right,
that's the
okay,
thing though. It's like he's fought MMA for like 20 years though, so it's like he's done striking for like 20 years, but his striking is just so bad. It's unbelievable. Like,
yeah,
but yeah, and it's mad. Like, obviously credit to Jake Paul for like knowing how to throw a punch, but like I feel like it just makes me really want to see Jake Paul fight an MMA striker who can actually strike. Because I
yes,
think it would be a
yeah,
different
yeah, yeah.
story. Because now he's kind of painting the MMA community in a light that they don't know how to strike. But I think that
Hmm.
if he fought a good striker from MMA, it would be a different story. So hopefully that'll be the next one.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I might watch that just to watch him get a beating. Like,
Yeah, it's exciting. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it is.
class, class. Well, I'm sure we'll have another one lined up before long. Like,
Hopefully,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right, buddy. Let's we'll go next slide then, mate, if you don't
Right.
mind, so we can just flip it round and we'll look at the backside pretty much. So we've got um, I tend to find you've got or it feels like there's a lot more muscle on the back of your body. You know, when it comes to different muscle groups and stuff like that. But a lot of those are like your back muscles. I've always found like when it comes to doing back exercises and training my back, because you're doing like your traps and your lats and maybe even some of the other muscles like rhomboids and stuff like that we don't necessarily need to cover today. um a back session was one that would always take me the longest. Do you know
Yep.
what I mean? I could go in,
You
I
do a
could
full
do
day on back.
chest, I could do triceps, and I could do abs in the same time it used to take me to do a full back session,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know.
But I think a good point as well is those that are thing that like because you were mentioning about I think it's worth mentioning because obviously you're talking about how people um, overemphasize the bicep because they think it's the one that's known when they did obviously the triceps free muscles and it's a bigger part of your
Mhm,
arm. Well, I think the
mhm.
back's obviously a good point as well because people think you want to put size on, they want to work the chest all the time and things like that. Whereas if you put muscle on your back, it makes your whole frame look bigger because obviously with your lats, right, it gives you that V shape. So it's like
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Like where that V shape comes in is pretty much the lats, isn't it? At the end of the day, and the idea really into especially in bodybuilding and stuff like that is for that V shape and to sort of taper in towards the waist, isn't it? Um, but yeah, like there is a lot of muscle there. Even when it comes to working your lats, I used to spend time like, do you work them out like sort of out wide with a wide grip pull up, or like a wide grip row, then you need to come in a little bit closer and do some narrow grip stuff and all of that as well. So yeah, I used to find that a back session could take a long time, you know, and that's a really good point, you know, sort of similar to the bicep and tricep thing. I've seen people before who, right, so with sort of like naturally rounded shoulders, so they're rounded forward, the mindset is, okay, I'll make my chest bigger and I'll come into this position here, which is actually the opposite of what happens. They end up training their chest, so their pecs get tight.
Yeah.
And with tight pecs, what do your shoulders do? They just come further forward.
Forward,
What you need to be doing is working the reverse side and working the back muscle so the tension is equal to pull your shoulders back into that natural position. But you know what? It would be so easy to make that misunderstanding of, you know what, I want my shoulders to be pulled back, so I'll make my chest bigger, so they've got to come out of the way, and I'll train my chest more. And you can actually end up with muscle imbalances where it's like too much tension coming from one angle and not the other.
Yeah.
Where you're actually going to end up with like impingements and pain and stuff like that. So again, you know, the body works best when it's in balance with itself. As Thanos would say, perfectly balanced as all things should be. You know, so we need to make sure that we're working all of our muscles as well, which is it's another reason that I always used to say to people, look, don't skip leg day. True. Don't be skipping leg day, you know. So what else have we got on the back? So we've got our traps, or our trapezius, you know, and that's not swinging through the air on a rope at the circus. That is totally different altogether. This is it's almost like a diamond shaped muscle that we can see attaching from like the base of the skull.
Yeah.
It flares out towards the shoulders and comes out quite wide, and then almost sort of tapers back in and sort of meets the spine halfway down again. Now, this muscle is the one that I've seen so much damage in over the years, be it from bad posture, be it even stress. You know, we carry so much tension in our traps, even if it is just sort of sitting with our sort of neck retracted a little bit more, or our shoulders elevated. You know, it is such a big muscle. And like I say, we carry so much tension there. It's a hard one to rip and tear and totally debilitate. And you know what, touch wood, none of us ever experienced that. But it is so easy to, like I say, carry tension. If we've got bad posture, it's normally that muscle that's getting stretched to a range that it doesn't like to be. You know, which is why it can sometimes even just feel nice to sit and put their hand on your shoulder and have a little bit of
like self-massage is always
yeah. Self-massage. I've done it with like a tennis ball up against the wall, where I'll put the ball on the wall and lean into it, you know, and move it around a little bit, you know. It works really well on the rotator cuffs, or the muscles that make the rotator cuff, where we can't really see it on here. It falls under where your shoulder blade would be. Mm-hmm. It's the muscles around the shoulder blade pretty much. Now, those get a lot of hammer day to day as well. And like I say, I've worked with lads younger than me that have got bad rotator cuffs just from lifestyle, from always being on the keyboard, always sort of driving. If your arms are elevated, your rotator cuffs are working really at the end of the day. Which is why when we're doing any pushing movement, or even just time to time, it doesn't hurt to do some rotator cuff sort of warm up exercises, which is pretty much going to be that sort of thing, you know, or be it like an internal or an external rotation as well, you know. But your traps are a big muscle, and like I say, one that we need to keep on top of, and that's probably where you're going to carry a lot of tension, like I say. I sort of mentioned earlier on your rear deltoid, the smaller muscle on the back of your shoulder, that helps retract your shoulder rather than bring it forward. Triceps we've mentioned down the back of the arm. Lats or latissimus dorsi was the one that Daniel mentioned a second ago, which runs sort of like down the side of the torso. The bigger those are, of course, the more we've got that V-shaped. I've heard them called wings before. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to bodybuilding and stuff like that, you'd be like, look at the wings on that guy. It's pretty much going to be his lats. And then we have what I like to call invisible lat syndrome, which is where guys walk around like they've got a carpet under each arm, when they have no lats at all.
I know.
That's invisible lat syndrome as well. Yeah, latissimus dorsi. I remember them as lats because they're down the side of your body, and of course, lateral movement is side to side as well. So latissimus dorsi, your lats are down your side. That's a pretty easy way to remember where they are. Just while we're on and while we've got a little bit of time, looking at obviously where some of these lats sort of connect onto bone and stuff like that, it'd be really easy to see why tension in your glutes could pull a bone into a position or your pelvis into a position that it doesn't want to be in and cause strain on your lower back.
Yep.
You know, I've mentioned it before, like if we're thinking from a side-on point of view, from that side-on point of view, if this is somebody's pelvis and they're facing that way, if they've got like really tight hamstrings, it's going to pull the back of the pelvis down. Yeah. So you can, by extension, these muscles at the front have been pulled longer than they should be.
Yeah.
So you can have really sort of tight hip flexors. Again, your back's gone from being that shape to being more sort of that shape because your pelvis has come back over. And it can go the other way as well. You know, you can have like really tight quads, really tight hip flexors that are going to pull your pelvis that way. So all of a sudden you've got an arch like that in your lower back rather than being where you'd be more natural being, you know, which can lead to sort of back problems and stuff like that. And truth be told, when I've worked with people over the years, when it comes to bad backs, it's usually been something to do with the glutes or the hamstrings, truth be told, mate.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's a really good point. I think that it's like something in your hamstrings can cause an issue in your back, right? That's just such a crazy thought, but like it's the way it works. It's just like it's like an alignment, right?
Yeah, definitely. Or it's all a chain. It's the posterior chain that we call it. So, like you say, like think of it like a traffic jam. Something this high up can still have an effect on stuff this far back.
That's good.
You know?
Yeah.
So and has that sort of knock-on effect. Similar to what I sort of mentioned a minute ago. What you can also get is reduced mobility. Like your skeleton and your joints don't like to work across a certain range because the muscles aren't able to do it. You know, I've mentioned before a lady that I used to train who used to be a hairdresser and she was wearing high heels all day every day pretty much. Her hamstrings went from being sort of a natural length with a heel on the floor. As she raises her heel, her hamstring gets shorter. So when she came to do a squat in a flat gym shoe, she could only get so far down before her legs were starting to buckle and her heel was trying to pull up. So we actually had to do hamstring stretching and hamstring work before we could get a full range squat, you know. So it does have such a big knock-on effect. It really does, you know. And then the last one that we've got on that list, you know, I'd mentioned the gluteus maximus being like the bum and the booty and stuff like that. The gastrocnemius is a bit of a difficult one to even pronounce sometimes, depending on where you're at. But it's a fancy word for your calf. Pretty much, it's just your calf muscle, really.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Before I did my level 3, it wasn't a word I'd ever come across before. No. But yeah, your gastrocnemius is your calf pretty much at the end of the day. So again, you know, when it comes to the rear side of the body, there's actually maybe more muscle to work than there is on the front. You know, when we think about your front, your quads, your abs, your pecs, and your front delts pretty much. Which is why, like I say, we need to work in balance and make sure that both sides are getting a good workout, because I've seen guys that just want to train the muscles that they can see themselves, you know what I mean? Want big pecs, but they're not bothered about lats or traps because they can't see them. And you do end up looking a little bit like you've been built in like a really bad character creator in a video game. Or, you know, you can end up with injuries and stuff like that as well. So like I say, good holistic training approach, full body, making sure we're getting everything worked.
Yeah.
Right, buddy.
It's always funny when you see those pictures of people who've like got like a really something that you see with a lot of celebrities. I'm sure I saw one with Hugh Jackman actually, where it's like the top half so muscular, and then there's like a picture of them in shorts, and it's like it looks so abnormal to see how skinny the legs are in comparison to how big the body is.
Yeah. Honestly, oh mate, when the sun comes out, get yourself down Wetherspoons. You'll see loads of people like that. Get yourself down the local spoons, mate, funny. If you want to say that. Yeah, but it does. Do you know what? Like what you were saying earlier on about that, like sought after V shape.
Yeah.
It looks more pronounced, obviously, if you taper in with your lats into a small waist. It looks more pronounced if you then blown out again for your glutes and your quads and your thighs, as opposed to like you look like a funnel if you sort of sort of just come down and then into like two little pipe cleaner legs. Definitely. So yeah, don't skip legs there, guys. Don't skip legs there. Okay, buddy. So if you don't mind just spinning us on to the next slide, we've got a bit of a crossword to do. Now I know crosswords can sometimes be quite difficult to do on the screen. If it's easier to grab yourself a pen and paper, then by all means do. We're just going to spend 10 minutes or so on this before we have a look at the answers, and we just sort of see how much we've how much you've maybe taken in throughout some of those more sort of complicated names or terms that you might not have sort of come across before as well. As always, if there's anything, if you do want to chuck it in the chat, by all means do. I'm just coming out and trying to refresh it now so I can make sure I'm up to date. But yeah, we'll spend 10 minutes or so on here, and then we're going to move on and look at some of those, like we mentioned earlier on, some of those skills that we need before we're working with people in a one-on-one or sort of definitely in a close proximity. So yeah, we'll take 10 minutes or so, and we'll just see where we're at after that and see how you guys are getting on. Out of curiosity, buddy, I know you were mentioning earlier on, just while we've got a sec, I know you'd mentioned that you said bench press was something that you used to sort of plateau with and sort of like really struggle to push through.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite either body part to train, or did you have a favorite exercise to do?
Yeah, just back. I mean, I love training back always. I always feel
Really,
like back.
yeah.
Yeah, I always feel like back was just more fun to train. I don't know why, but like yeah, but a lot of deadlift, a lot of like bend over rows, stuff like that,
Yeah,
seated rows as well, anything like that, and even
yeah,
pull ups as well. But
yeah,
yeah, like all I love just doing
yeah.
generally back stuff was more preferable for me.
Because you can do some big heavy lifts as well, can't you? Especially if you're thinking about the strength side of
Of
things and the
course, yeah.
hypertrophy side of things. If you're doing a pulling movement, obviously, like we're saying, you've got more muscle mass. You're going to use more muscle mass. You're going to get, like we say, more bang for your buck, really, aren't you? You know.
Yeah, I think deads was always my favorite exercise. Like even when I've like came back to the gym recently and stuff, obviously I never train as hard as I used to, but like when I always go back, I always consider like if I do deads, then I always feel like right if I do so other stuff it's important as well, but deads is like the most important because or at least for me personally because I think that um it's just such a like holistic compound exercise that does like it does like your lower back and it maybe secondary muscles it probably works you the back of your shoulders a little bit and then like
Yeah, your
obviously working
traps,
your
your core.
glutes. So yeah, your core.
Yeah,
So it's like, and I always feel after I'd done deads, I always felt really like good. Like it always felt like a good workout every time I did it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um,
It,
that's quite interesting then, yeah. Because you know what, the amount of people I speak to over the years, like not many of them will say, "Oh, my back's my favorite thing to do." Obviously, the guys like to do the chest, the
chest and
abs, the
buys. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well, because I
yeah,
think it's always been really weak for me that I just thought like I do like doing stuff like that. Like it's always a
yeah,
nice easy session when I go in and I do some like dumbbell press and stuff like that, and it always does feel like it feels like because I'm still working stuff, but it's nice and easy. Where sometimes when you do dead, I can't bother to do that, and
yeah,
I'm more. It's not even the exercise; it's more me having to wait for like the barbell and like people being around me and stuff. I hate that like more than anything.
yeah,
Whereas like
yeah,
there's always like dumbbells kicking about and there's always a free bench, so it's always really easy. But having to take up the rack by yourself, that's always pretty awkward, I think.
yeah.
In yeah, but like even when I gone back, like I never really lift that heavy anymore, but still, like just doing those exercises always feels like good workout.
Well, that's it, yeah. You know, and like we're always saying, with different components and stuff like that. Like, if you are training for hypertrophy, you will still get a little bit stronger.
Yeah,
You know, but that training might be more feasible, it might be more enjoyable than coming in and just trying to lift heavy all the time, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like if you were coming in like I'm exactly the same as you, mate. I can echo the sentiment really. Like, training chest by yourself is difficult if you are trying to go heavy or trying to really
yeah,
push yourself, because you're thinking about form, you're thinking about, have I got another rep in us, because once I've started to push up on this next rep, I'm kind of committed to it, and
yeah,
it's either going to go up or sideways, one of the two.
yeah, yeah.
Um, more often than not. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of peace of mind in training back as well. As long as your back's flat, there's only so wrong you can go with it, really. You
Exactly,
know,
yeah,
be it deads, yeah, be it your deadlift, your rack pulls, your seated rows, whatever it's going to be. Um, so yeah, as much as I used to always, like I say, it would take forever to train back and to train it properly. I never used to mind a back session, like, especially if, because you've blasted your biceps quite a lot through all your big pulling movements, your
hmm
pull-ups and stuff like that. By the time you get to the end of the session, you only need to do some light stuff on your biceps as an isolation to really burn them out, you know.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, back's a good one to do.
A
Back
lot of
is a
people,
good one to do.
yeah, I think yeah, you're totally right, and I think that obviously you're getting your biceps, depending on what you're doing, you that's like it's getting worked secondary, and if you're doing like pull-ups and stuff, it's going to work your chin-ups, it's going to work your biceps quite a bit. So
Mhm.
if you're doing
Yeah,
like curls after that, it makes sense, kind of, I think, doesn't it?
yeah. It's just like doubling it up sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Um, Okay, cool. Do you know what, mate? Do you know what I used to hate doing as well? I think my least favorite session used to be shoulders. I used to hate doing my shoulders.
I've been riddled with shoulder injuries for years, so it's like for me, it's always like I have to like lift so light, and I can't do military press with a barbell. Like I can't do barbell press, chest press. Like I can't do barbell bench, and I can't do barbell military press.
Okay.
Just because of the shoulder injuries, it kills
Hmm.
me. So I always do dumbbell bench press, and I do dumbbell military press as well, or dumbbell
Yeah, yeah.
shoulder press,
Hmm.
and yeah, like I have to lift so light because if I ever like go too because I can't neglect it because then it's going to be even worse because other muscles going to grow and then it's not going to
Yeah.
grow. But I still need to exercise it, but I just need to be so careful because I always think when I do it, every time I go back, I always feel like feels all right. This I'll probably go heavier, and then
Hmm.
2 days later, I'm like it's killing my shoulder, and
Yeah,
then like
maybe
and I
shouldn't have
just
gone
know that
heavy.
it just sets me back, and we talk about that all the time, but it's
Mhm.
so true, and like I just got to stick with it, and usually it's just going to be the same weight every week, pretty much. But as long as it's still getting worked, you know.
Yeah, 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 definitely. You'll know as well when you get to the point where you finish the session, and you're like, "Ah, that really wasn't enough,"
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. And you might get to the point where it's either just you might not even have to go any heavier, just change up the angles that you're working,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
just
Yeah,
change up some of the exercises.
that's
Like I
it.
say, by now we're hopefully all realizing that, you know, like focused training could get you a long way a lot quicker. Do you know what I mean? Like if you don't feel like you necessarily need to be stronger in your shoulders or that's like your priority, of course that'll come with time, like I'm saying, but that's not to go in and get yourself a heavy ass weight and do like 5 sets of 5 and start straight on strength training because, like you say, you'll hurt yourself and you'll end up setting yourself back over, which is, like we say, the last thing that we want, really.
Definitely, mate. And
Yeah.
yeah, I used to think I was invincible when I was younger, man. I used to try and do like 1 rep max military press with a barbell, like just lifting it up and like hoisting it
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the air. And
yeah.
it's so bad for your joints, man. And there's certain people, it depends on your frame, really. Some people are built a way where they can just take that the whole life, but
Yeah,
other people like
yeah.
myself, I'm always being an ectomorph and like putting that much pressure on my little bones. I think it's to this day, it's given me like injuries that are always like there's so much scar tissue and whatever on my shoulder that it's like it always opens up every time I go too heavy. So it's
Mhm.
it's something I always need to be mindful of.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And do you know, I'm sure there's going to be times where we all pick up little niggles and injuries, and like we say, that's why you've just got to listen to your body. You know, you start doing something and it hurts. None of this, no pain, no gain. Change
Yeah,
what you're doing.
yeah,
Change up
exactly.
what you're doing. The chance to be a way to work the same muscle without causing any more inflammation or any more lasting damage for sure. Um, and of course, that's where it comes in, just being able to collar somebody or know yourself, right? I'll try this exercise instead, you know, which is not always something that's easy or
Yeah,
available. So that's why we're thinking about the environment that we're training in as well.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, man.
Right, buddy. Let's start blasting
Sweet,
through
yeah.
some of these answers. Then, so we've actually got an answer slide ready to go next to save having to put the sort
Brilliant.
of the words in it as we're going through. So, some of the clues are pretty cryptic. Some of them are a little bit more outside the box, and some of them are a little bit more sort of bang on and specific. So, the first one across, used in geometry as a line to form the perimeter of a circle to the center. I was reading this, I was thinking, what's that got to do with the human body? And then I thought, okay, the perimeter to the center is the radius, which
Right.
is exactly the same name as the bone that we've got in our forearm that connects to the thumb.
Ah,
Yeah. So one across
get it.
was radius. Yeah. Number 4 across connected to the tibia, is the fibula. Yeah. If we remember some of the stuff that we've done on the skeleton, those are
Yeah,
the two bones that are in sort of like the lower leg. Um, the tib being your shin, and the fibula being the smaller, almost wishbone sort of thing towards the back, the smaller one down the back. Number 5, often referred to as the furry bone, is of course the humerus. It's the big one in this in the upper arm. Just one bone shoulder down the elbow, and is one of the biggest bones in the body. Okay, let's have a look then. So we've got two-headed muscle that lies on the upper arm between the shoulder and the elbow. So let's break it down. So we've got the upper arm, between the shoulder and the elbow. And remember, we mentioned earlier on the two-headed or bi is of course the bicep for 13 across. So we've got the bicep for 13 across, 14 across. So the thinner and longer bone found in the two bones in the arm. Yeah. So again, we mentioned the radius a second ago, and of course the other one is the ulna, which connects to the little finger. Yeah, so it's the smaller of the two bones found in the lower portion of the arm. Okay, sometimes called the shoulder blade, 15 across, is the scapula. Yeah. So yeah, just the proper name for the shoulder blade, really. 16 across, the biggest and strongest bone in the body is the femur. Yeah. So it's the thigh bone, pretty much. That is the biggest bone in the body, from your hip socket down to your knee joint. It is a big old bone. It's hard to break, and do you know what? By all accounts, and probably rightly so, it's meant to sting when you do break it. Like you are, yeah, definitely. When you think of it being such a big bone. Okay, the biggest and strongest bone in your body was the femur. Sometimes seen at a barbecue. Sometimes seen at the barbecue. Took me a second to work out. And then, of course, what protects your heart and your lungs? It's your ribs.
Nice.
It's your ribs.
Man, mate, you don't honestly like Texas barbecue ribs. If you ever go to like some of the restaurants in Newcastle, man, or just anywhere for that matter, like the like real good barbecued ribs, like Texas style. Oh man, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah, oh, definitely, mate. I'm me and Alex are a bit of fiend for the ribs, like.
The best.
We went to I don't even know if it's still there in Newcastle now. There was one called Red's Barbecue.
Yeah, I've been there before. Yeah, it's lush.
It was inside Alden Square, mate. Absolutely unreal, like it really was.
I love
and
it,
they've got the dinky donut, not the dinky donut, the Krispy Kreme style setup where you can see everything going on and everything being made and going on the conveyor belt. And I'm just stood there like, oh, absolutely drooling.
Like there's nothing better, man, when the ribs come out and you can just see the glaze on them and you bite into it. It's like just got that rich kind of flavor. Like, it's either like a smoky flavor or like a sweet flavor. It's just, it's so good, man.
Yeah. You're gonna have me starving here, bro.
I know that's what I'm thinking as well. But yeah.
I tell you, we're gonna get off the stream, aren't we? And just be like straight out for some ribs.
One of the things that makes ribs so good as well, right, is when it's on the bone and it's like it's crispy on the outside where it's barbecued, and then on the inside it's like soft and tender.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
And you get like the burnt ends in that as well.
Yeah, I love that though, mate.
Oh, mate, don't honestly, you're gonna have me drooling here.
Man, it's so good. It's like wash it down. It's like so salty. Like wash it down like a nice glass of like Coke or something as well, like a Diet Coke. It's like, oh man, it's the best ever.
Oh mate, well, it's all to look forward to is barbecue weather rolls back round, hopefully, mate. Fingers crossed it'll not be long and we'll have an excuse to get one on the go, definitely.
Yeah. There's nothing better.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Where were we then? Number 18, the tendon at the back of the lower leg. Yeah, so 18 across, it is the Achilles tendon, which is the one that I mentioned earlier on. It's pretty much that little one right above your heel that sort of helps with all the sort of flexion at your ankle. And again, when that goes snap, you're not putting much weight on that foot at all anytime soon. You know, Achilles is a big one that affects basketballers and athletes and stuff like that. And yeah, that is the Achilles at the end of the lower leg, named of course famously after the Greek hero who took the arrow to his heel, and that was his weak spot, of course, which is where it comes from, the Achilles heel. So there you go, a little bit of classics this morning for you, a little bit of classical civilizations as well. That's it. You know, cover all the bases here.
That's it, man.
Oh, I've got a little surprise for you guys. I've got a little furry face coming to say hi.
Oh wow.
Oh, he's coming in. Hi, boy.
Everyone.
Oh. Where's he at? Hey.
Oh, bless him.
Thanks. Hey, boy. Where's Daniel at?
Hello.
Hey. Oh.
Oh, bless him.
Curious.
Oh, mate, he is absolutely gorgeous.
Class, mate. He's absolutely. He's been good as gold as well.
Lush, man.
Thank you. You've been so good in a room that you've never really been in before as well. Oh, Mum giving you treats as well.
Don't know if it's just the camera, but he looks so dark. He's got almost like a bluish, purplish hue.
He almost does, yeah. I think it's the light coming in and hitting him as well.
Yeah.
But he's,
Man,
he is
he's absolutely gorgeous, man. Oh,
pride little face, man. Got us both wrapped around his little finger already, mate.
so what's he called again, Robert? Just for everybody.
Woody. He is Woody. He's our little Sheriff Woody. Ain't you, boy? Ain't you, boy? Good boy. Good boy. I'm going to hand you back over to Mum because we've got some muscles to talk about. Bye, guys. Bye, guys.
Bye,
Bye, dude.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, that was a nice little surprise for everybody there.
Everyone.
Bye. Yeah, little cameo. His first media savvy appearance. I'm sure you guys will see plenty more of him. And of course, when we're back in the office, I'm sure people will get a chance to actually meet him and give him a little bit of a stroke. But yeah, if I've looked more tired than normal the last few weeks, that's the reason. Yeah, he's just gone. But do you know what? He's been absolutely mint, mate. He has.
Oh yeah, I bet. And I mean, having him from such a young age, he's just gonna love you so much, dude.
Yeah, we got him at 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So he's coming up 11 weeks this weekend, and he's doing stuff like sitting down, responding to his name, lying down when he's told. He's classing his crate like he's proper star student, but only when there's food involved.
Yeah, well, that's ridiculous, isn't it? You know. So
yeah, he's very much
food
like
motivation.
Food motivated. Yeah, he's definitely my dog. That's for sure, mate. But, yeah, it'll be nice to introduce him to the team, and of course some of you guys as well that get into Savvy Towers when the time comes and when we can get round to it, you know, and of course making sure that we can do that safely as well. So yeah, it'll not be the last you see of him anyway. He'll be able to come and go a bit more freely when I know he's not going to like try and eat all the guitars as soon as I take my eyes off of him. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, little cameo there. His first media savvy appearance. Yeah, that's it. He'll be due a nap now. He's had his couple of minutes in the spotlight. He'll be ready for another snooze now.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Right, buddy. Let's get this one finished up then, and then we've got 15 minutes or so to just run through the last couple of slides, mate. So, where were we? One of the muscles in the quadriceps, 19 across. Where we got 19 across. Is the hamstring. Actually, yeah. So it actually sort of leads in down the side, and there's like a little bit of overlap. Yeah. Then we've got number 20. It runs from its two heads to just above the knee to the heel, a two joint muscle. Yeah. So 20 is thinking about it from the knee to the heel is our calf muscle, isn't it? You know, so it'll be that gastrocnemius that we were talking about a second ago. Do you know what? I'm not entirely sure where that name comes from. There's got to be some Latin in there or something like that. I'd have thought. But yeah, gastrocnemius is our calf. Yeah. So 2 down. Another word for your butt is your it's your glute or your gluteus maximus. I'm just trying to find it on the crossword. Yeah, it's just on gluteus. Yeah. So another word for your butt is your glute or your gluteus. 3 down, so also known as the abdominals or abs, is the rectus abdominis. I don't know whether that is definitely Latin. It's got to be. I don't know if that's one that you've ever come across before, buddy, or whether you've just ever heard it.
No, that's a new one as well, actually.
Yeah, rectus abdominis apparently is our abs. Number 6 down, large muscle group that contains 4 muscles is of course our quadricep. Quad being the 4, exactly the same as the tri and the bi in tricep and bicep. Number 7 down runs from just below the knee to the heel and is involved in standing and walking. So again, thinking knee to heel, involved in standing and walking. 7, where is 7? Oh, it's the soleus. Yes. So what we've actually got, and we don't need to go into it too much or worry about it too much. Can you just 2 seconds, buddy, go back to the picture of the reverse side of the guy?
Yep. No
yeah. And we can see where the calf muscle actually it's almost 2 separate parts.
Yep.
So yeah, we've got the gastrocnemius and we've got the soleus in the calf as well. Yeah. So we do actually have I've sort of two parts or two heads to the calf, very similar to like the bicep is regarded as the bicep, but there's two parts to that as well.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same with the with the calf as well. Yeah. So that is the second part of the calf muscle there. So that was soleus. That was 7 down. So back to the crossword. Often referred to as the collarbone. So 8 down is the clavicle. Yeah. So we've got the clavicle or like you say your collarbone. 9 down, muscle forming the rounded contour of the shoulder. Yeah, so we've mentioned that this morning. Sort of like the muscles that sit on your shoulder, that sit at the front, the side, and the back, are the deltoids. Yeah, or the delts that you might have heard them called before. Especially when it comes to bro talk in the gym. Oh, I'm doing my delts today. Yeah, that might be the one that you've heard them called. 10 down. Other name for the kneecap is the patella. Yeah, so if we remember the skeleton work that we did, the proper name for the kneecap is the patella. The breastbone is called the what do we call the breastbone? I'm just trying to find exactly what it's listed as on here. Where we at, man? Where we at? 11. Yeah, 11 down over. Why am I being... Oh, there it is. It's in the middle. It is. It's the sternum, yeah, in the middle. I was just making sure that I was giving the same answers that were actually on here. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the sternum. The breastbone's the sternum. And then the last one, 12 down. So we've got the muscle principally responsible for the extension of the elbow joint, which is straightening the arm, which, the biceps getting longer, so the tricep is actually contracting there and doing that work down the back of the arm. So 12 down will actually be the tricep. Yeah. So yeah, there might have been a couple in there that you've never heard of. There might be something that you have sort of come across before, that you've maybe forgotten. So yeah, again, that'll always be there to sort of come back and refresh from. Just a little bit of stuff to obviously do with the skeleton and the bones in there as well, because now we're understanding how closely linked the skeleton and the bones are in terms of movement and support, and definitely in terms of function and stuff like that as well. So just starting to pair them together, proper bones, proper muscles, and we start to get an idea how we're actually moving. Okay, buddy, well, that'll do us for the crossword then, mate, if you don't mind just rolling on. Where we at? Okay, so we're going to do like I sort of mentioned at the start of the session, and looking at some different skills that are quite helpful in sort of working with people and helping with that professionalism and stuff like that as well. So of course, we've got on this next slide, we've got a couple of examples. So how do you conduct yourself professionally? What it means to be professional. Now, you're probably going to find sort of industry to industry, vocation to vocation, expectations are going to be different. You'll probably find, a personal trainer who's been sort of quite professional and being as professional as possible will have a lot in common, with others, but there's going to be certain parts of the job that you do differently or expected to do differently, as opposed to if you were a businessman or a salesman or something like that, so a lot of these skills sort of do carry over, and they're really helpful in professionalism. Some of them are going to be a little bit more sort of specific to the task at hand. So of course, some of the more transferable ones that you'd say are probably going to be really sort of universal across all jobs, in terms of punctuality. Are you where you say that you're going to be at the time that you say they're going to be there? As a PT, as someone who potentially runs your own diary, that is something that's going to be really important. Clients will stop turning up if they turn up and you're not there. It was one thing that used to wind me up when I used to get all the way through to Sunderland, pull into the car park for a session to start in 10 minutes, then I get a text, oh, I'm running late, or oh, I can't make it. Then I'll be like, oh, well, my next session isn't till like 6 hours time. I'm not going to drive home to Durham and then come back to Sunderland, so now I've got 6 hours to kill in Sunderland, whereas you could have just texted and said, oh, I'm not going to make it today. So it goes both ways, and punctuality is always really helpful in building relationships, in sort of interpersonal skills, that sort of thing, working with colleagues as well, punctuality, getting stuff done by deadlines, if you're working with somebody and there's a deadline to be hit and you split the work between you and say you do yours and I'll do mine, if they go off and do their half and you don't do yours, well, you've let the side down, haven't you? You know, it's not a position that of course anybody wants to be in, really, that I can think of, being happy to let the side down, but these things do happen as well, you know. So punctuality and turning up and being there for meetings and even consultations, stuff like that, you know, is something that we're going to get onto in a minute with consultations and stuff. But yeah, punctuality is always going to be a big thing, you know. Keeping things positive, you know, maybe he's not being all doom and gloom, not being sort of like the downer on the party, or the dampener of the party. And again, you know, that's not to say that we aren't allowed bad days. We don't have days that we need to spend a little bit more focus on our own mental health, and there shouldn't be any stigma at all about voicing up about a problem that you've got, or an issue that you've got. You know, that shouldn't be a case of, look, you've always got to be happy and smiley and sunny. You know, we know Robin Williams is the first case that I can think of, you know, where you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And
True,
maybe if people hadn't always expected him to be the punchline, and the source of all the laughter and the source of all the jokes, he might have had an easier time coming out and talking about his mental health and stuff like that as well, you know. So again, there's no pressure, and there should never be an expectation to always be positive. But it's a good sort of, it's a good general mindset to try and stay in, isn't it? You know, even if we are having a bad time or having a bad day, try and think of the positives, look for silver linings, that side of things. Because of course, you know, going to the other end of the spectrum, I'm sure we've all worked with somebody over the years that is just always doom and gloom and misery when they come in, and it's like you don't want to find yourself on shift with that person, do you? You know, it gets to the point where you're like, oh, I'll shift swap with you then, as long as I'm not on with you.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, that's not the position anybody wants to be in. The person, or the colleague as well. You know.
Yeah.
So you know,
Mate,
we all want positive vibes. You know, it's something that we always try and work on at Media Savvy.
dude, like,
Just be a good experience and a good atmosphere to be in.
I'd worked at like supermarkets and stuff before, mate, and like, I'm sure they're not all like this, but when I'd worked there, it was like insane. Like, all the staff would just talk about each other, like, really, but like, say like, oh, I can't believe she did that. You know, she did that. Oh, she's always like that. Oh, he's like this, and it's just like,
Yeah,
I used to just sit
yeah,
there in the break room, like, what the hell? Like,
yeah. What have these people done to you? Yeah, what have they done to you?
so
It it,
crazy.
it is. Yeah, it really is. But you know what? Again, like I've left jobs because the environment has been so negative and just so I don't want to use the word oppressive, but you know what I mean. Just so like it's just not a nice place to be
Yeah,
for. If you're working full time and you're there 40 hours a week, it can't be somewhere that's so negative, because it does start to get into your own sort of psyche, doesn't it?
I know, man.
And,
Especially
and it
like,
creates you up yourself.
people are like gossiping about each other and stuff like that in those places, and it's just like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's the old, if you haven't got anything nice to say, don't say
I
anything at
know,
all,
but no, I know.
isn't it? Yeah,
Totally agree with what you're saying about like, yeah, like a negative work environment can like make or break a job. You know what I mean? Like that, might actually
yeah,
enjoy some of the aspects to it, but if everyone there is really negative, it's going to totally affect your
yeah,
experience.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's something to think about. Be someone who, or strive to be someone who lifts the mood in the room, you know, or people see you coming and think, oh, here comes so and so, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely goes a long way. Then we've got being appropriately dressed, of course. Now that's going to change from area to area, from industry to industry, what appropriate actually means. But of course, like, again, if I turned up for a PT session, a three-piece suit and shoes, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? People are just going to look at us like, what on earth is going on here? It might be a little bit of a niche, and it might be a little bit novelty, but
you should
but
go in a tuxedo, like a bow tie, and then
that's it, mate. Yeah, just like get down up for like a proper prom, and then just go hit the gym floor.
that's
Yeah. So,
it.
of course, you know, people turn up for PT sessions. They obviously expect you to be in whenever you're in. At the same time, if I'd have been in for a swim during my break, if I'd have been using the facility swimming pool, and I came and met them on the gym floor for the session, and I've just still got my swimming shorts on, and I'm just slip my trainers on over the top. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Maybe it's hide on a string vest. It doesn't look very professional at all, you know.
I mean, yeah, I mean, still though, in it, it's like there's obviously like even if you're wearing like jogging bottoms in like a gym shirt, it still needs to be like clean, and it can't have like food stains and stuff on it, because people are
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
look at
yeah.
that and be like, what, you know?
Yeah, yeah, 100, like 100%, mate. You know, like,
Yeah,
do your jogger bottoms still smell like Foster's because you had them on the last time you
exactly.
had like last weekend when you had a couple of cans, like that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Again, different area to area. If you turn up in a pub and the barmaid smells a little bit like booze, meh, you kind of expect it, don't you? You turn up in a gym for a personal training session, you don't expect your personal trainer to, you know. So yeah, that's definitely something to think about in terms of like almost sort of like there's the hygiene aspect as well, isn't there, as well as what you are actually wearing, you
what
know.
I always think as well, and I mean this might be a personal issue that I have, but like it's good to smell nice. Of course, it's good to smell nice, but there's such you can like people men sometimes put like too much aftershave on. Like I told you one time we were doing casting, and a guy came in and he stunk the whole room out of aftershave.
Yeah,
Like, and
like,
I couldn't
smelled
stop
him
thinking
before you
about it.
saw him. Yeah,
Man, I'm like literally though, because obviously I told the story before, but it was a massive corridor, and as soon as the door opened, you could smell aftershave, and it's like
really, wow.
no matter what he's gonna say, that's already in my brain. So it's like,
Yeah,
so, and I would imagine I'd feel the same way if I had a PT, where if they were like reeking aftershave, I'd feel like a bit like this is a bit much. But you know, I mean, it's better that than they smell bad.
of
But
course, of course,
I'd
mate.
rather
Yeah, yeah.
that than they smelled like, you know, BO. But still, though, obviously, it's not that nice.
That's it. Yeah, if you're trying to breathe on the treadmill because you're going for personal best, and yeah, and your personal trainer smells like FedEx beauty department, you know,
Exactly.
it's gonna get in the way and it's gonna distract you for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're thinking about like again, because it's not actually on that list. We're thinking about the hygiene side of things as
Of
well when
course,
it
yeah,
comes
yeah.
to being appropriately dressed. Of course, listening. Sort of listening to your clients or potential clients, even just gym members, that sort of thing. If I've got someone trying to tell me about their diet, no, I'm trying this, it makes me feel like this, and I'm like typing away on my phone, like, yeah. 2 seconds, mate. Do you know what? Like, he's going to switch off and he's going to stop trying to talk to us. He's
Yeah.
probably going to go elsewhere, talk to a different trainer. It really doesn't look great at all, you know. It's the old saying, isn't it? For every person who would say a good thing about you and sing your praises, there's probably 10 people that would be just as happy to go out there and tell people about a bad experience that they've had with you. You know, bad press travels faster than good press in a lot of cases, you know. And before you know it, you know, you'll be known throughout the gym as that PT that doesn't take his eyes off his phone or listen to his clients or whatever, you know. So it's easy to pick up a reputation, good or bad. So we're going to think about pretty early doors. We think about what reputation we'd like, you know. Um, we've got lending a hand. Lending a hand's quite a big one. I know I've sort of indirectly mentioned quite a few times when people have come up to me and say, Rob, will you show us how this machine works, or can I just pick your brains for 5 minutes about an exercise or my plateau that I'm at the minute. It's not for me to sit there and say, oh, well, do you know what, because you're not doing any paid personal training, you're on your own, mate, sorry. Again, I've worked with PTs that would do that, and you know what, when it's your own business, you've got that's their sort of prerogative at the end of the day, isn't it? You know, that's their choice. But I always try to just be as helpful as possible. Not only really because I'm not only representing myself, but I'm representing the gym that I'm in, and I always was aware of that, you know. And for all I was Rob Moore's PT, I was in a DW uniform. So at the end of the day, someone comes up on the gym floor and asks for a bit of help, I'm not going to be like just turn me back and walk away because they're not booked in for anything, you know.
True.
It sounds absolutely the idea of doing that sounds just so totally alien to me. I guess it's against my general nature overall, really, but it is something that'll it'll go a long way. We're building trust. We're building a little bit of rapport, because like I say, when those people have questions, you'll be the person that they come to and ask, you know, and it can potentially build more business. They can help of course build your reputation and spread your reputation as well. So it goes both ways. It's beneficial all around, really.
Definitely. Well, it's like, yeah, a person's much more inclined to be come to you and be like, you know, like actually, you know, get a session from me, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
if
yeah,
you've helped them out before on the gym floor.
yeah.
So
Even when it comes, if it comes down to, Rob, okay, I want to pay you for an hour, but we're not going to go on the gym floor. I just want to sit and ask you questions. Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. I'd normally say get us a coffee and do you know what? Save your money. Just bring us a coffee and we'll talk. Do you know what I mean? That'll
yeah,
do me. But it's just being as helpful as possible. You know, be a credit to the environment that you're in. Be a positive in the environment that you're in. I always try to sort of make sure it was where I was at with stuff for sure. Okay, so lending a hand, learning from mistakes is a big one. Learning from mistakes and not to make the same mistake over and over and over again. You know, Daniel, I know you're a gamer. You'll know the old quote. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and
yeah,
over again and expecting something to change. You know, Far Cry 3. And that is the case. You know, if you try something with a client and it doesn't work, don't obviously just keep banging on the same door, you know, potentially out of stubbornness, out of pride. Like, don't be scared to change your approach and say, okay, maybe that was wrong, or maybe, you know, the thing that we approached wasn't the best idea because this has now come to light, or, you know, we've tried it and we've given it a go, we rolled the dice on it and it didn't work, we'll try something else. I also feel that there's a lot to be said in not just the PT industry, but with anything. Someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, don't pretend that you know the answer. Just be honest and transparent and say, I don't know, I'm going to go and find out for you. Do you know what I mean? I always do it, obviously, in our sessions when I'm working with our learners one-on-one. And I was always the same with my PTs. Someone said to me, why is this hurting through this range? I'm not going to make up a reason to try and sound like I've got all the answers. My clients would rather hear, oh, I don't know, but I'm going to go and find out for you. Because then they know that the answer that they do get is legit when you do come back with it, you know. So learning from our mistakes, not doing the same thing over and over again. Again, like I've mentioned before, if you've got a load of weight on each end of the barbell and you take it all off of one end and the barbell pops up and makes a big racket in the gym and everybody looks at you and you want the ground to just swallow you up because you've made a get racket in the gym, it's not something that you're going to do again in a hurry, is it? You know, and of course it goes pretty much throughout life. You know, if we're not learning from our mistakes, we're sort of doomed to repeat them over and over again, aren't we? Yeah. Staying in control is a bit of a tough one. It's a little bit maybe it's even arbitrary, where control's quite sort of relative to the situation, isn't it? You know, what is control? Of course, remaining in control of your own emotions and your own sort of actions is the most important. If you're in charge of other people, you've got to be maintaining control of them as well. You know, if you're team leader on the shop floor and everything's absolutely like chaotic, it says a lot about leadership skills and stuff like that, doesn't it? You know, so we're trying to stay in control. Now, again, these aren't skills that I'm saying you should have now. These aren't skills that you should just be able to say, oh, just do that then. These are skills that we're always working on and always developing. It's like it's even stuff that even having done it 6-7 years, it's stuff that I need to think about, and I always need to be thinking about, okay, where can I be developing myself even more? Where can I be better? You know, because it's exactly the same as fitness. If we're not always trying to push our personal development, if we're not moving forwards, we're potentially moving backwards, and that's not what we want at all. So yeah, just staying in control of the situation and whatever your role requires of you, pretty much. I guess it's probably worth mentioning without going too far as well. You know, stay within your own lane, stay within your own jurisdiction. You know, if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, I need a hand with this," I can be in control of the situation, but sometimes me controlling that situation is saying, "Go and speak to Daniel, because Daniel will be your best source of information when it comes to that." You know, so again, that's not me overstepping my mark and saying, right, I'll tell you all about how to use Photoshop and editing software and stuff like that. You know what I mean? My control in that instance is saying, okay, this is where you're going to be best suited to go and get that information. Yeah, so it's not always as straightforward as just I'm in control, listen to me sort of thing. Okay, guys, so just going to speed these things up a little bit more because I'm just aware of the time. So etiquette in line with others, you know, making sure that everybody in the atmosphere is expecting the same from each other, and those expectations are known. You know, getting everybody onto the same page. The old expression, singing from the same hymn sheet, really, isn't it? You know, everybody's giving equal respect to each other, and it's a two-way street between two people, and it's not just going in one direction. You know, honoring your commitments, something that we mentioned earlier on. Like if you say, yes, I'll pick up this part of the workload, make sure you do. Don't let the side down, sort of thing. If you say to a client, oh yes, I'll go away and research the keto diet and see if that's going to be suitable for you, make sure that you do it. Don't get to your next session and be like, oh, I forgot. Do you know what I mean? As easy as it is to forget, and sometimes that will happen, and of course a client will probably understand, but when that becomes all the time, people just become to expect you to kind of almost sort of flop and bail on your commitments, before they've even really had a chance to take them seriously.
Yeah.
So we've mentioned treating everybody with respect, being polite and courteous to others, in the environment, be that colleagues, be that clients, be that obviously superiors. That is something that, at the end of the day, nobody goes to work or nobody goes anywhere really to be talked to like garbage, so
Exactly.
manners cost nothing at the end of the day. So yeah, like I say, just being courteous, being considerate of others, being polite, treating people with the respect that you'd expect to receive yourself, goes a really long way. We've mentioned looking the part and just looking, like we say, set up for the job that it is that you're supposed to be doing, and what people expect, and maybe it's even to a degree what people expect to see you looking like while you're doing that. Be that making sure that, again, coming back to PT, and if have you got a stopwatch handy, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Have you got maybe, yeah, I used to use a tablet for a while. I used to have a tablet with everybody's session plans on, and I'd put in what weights they were doing.
Good
And
idea.
you know what I mean? Looks quite professional, looks good on the gym floor, especially when you're the only PT doing it,
Definitely.
But yeah, at the same time, don't get too wrapped up in looking the part where the quality of your service actually suffers. But at the same time, yeah, try and look the part and practice what you preach and all that as well. Truthful and trustworthy, again, comes from a lot of these things rolled into one over time. But again, just be transparent if you're not sure about something, if you feel a little bit out of your depth, if you feel like it's not really your like I say, your jurisdiction or your field, is just something to think about as well. And of course, coming back to manners and being polite and stuff like that, it is just treating people the way you'd expect to be treated yourself, and it all sort of builds into this idea of professionalism and making sure that we're like I say, treating people the way we'd like to be treated ourselves. Okay, guys. So just before we wrap up, we've got one more proper slide to do, and then we're going to have a look at. We don't need to load the workbook up this week, buddy. Actually,
Okay.
we've got them on the slides and
Yeah,
the exercises that we're going to be doing. So if we can just go to our last working slide for the day. So we've got how to introduce yourself to a client. So again, I used to do this regularly. It was almost a daily thing, really, because the way the DW used to work. When I started working there, I was self-employed, but I would pay them less rent a month, but give them 10 hours of my time.
Okay.
So in those 10 hours, they could book in clients or new members for inductions, show rounds, free consultations, that sort of thing. So I would often get to the gym and say, okay, I've got at 3:00 this afternoon, I've got a Joe Blogs in. I could sit there at the desk and wait for him to come in and just have a bit crack and find everything out about him then. But if he's joined the gym and he's got his par Q filled in that we've talked about before, can I then be saying, right, I'll go and have a look through. I'll find out about his injuries, what medication he's on, maybe what his goals are, what his name are, his date of birth is going to give me an idea how old the guy is and what sort of stuff I might be able to expect from him. I can see, has he got diabetes? Does he have a regular heartbeat or anything like that? So I already know him kind of like the back of my hand by the time he sits down. And not only is he really impressed by that, and the attention to detail, because he's not just another body. Do you know what I mean? It is really personalized to him, and that's just a greeting, really, But I can also have had time to have a little bit of a think. So rather than him say, oh, when I do a squat, my knee hurts, and I'm sitting there going, interesting. I can think about that across the course of the afternoon, and when he mentions that, I could say to him, well, have you tried bringing your feet a little bit wider, try your stance a little bit wider, and just straight off the bat there, I've got an answer for him and something to suggest. And it's like, oh, do you know what? Yeah, I will give that a go. This guy's actually got some sort of information or some value to me, really, which is what you're trying to do at the end of the day. Show your value to the gym and show your value to a potential client or in some cases an actual client, So doing your research. So what about when they do actually turn up? Of course, these have all been thought about pre-COVID. I'm not sure what the procedure is going to be. I'm quite glad I'm not going back to any one-to-one PT. In as gyms are reopening up and stuff like that. But something simple like a handshake, give them a little smile. Again, thinking about how you're actually dressing, how you're presenting yourself. Just something along the lines of, "Hi, I'm so and so. Pleasure to meet you," sort of thing. You can introduce yourself, your job role, maybe it's a little bit of the stuff that you've done in the past. What they could expect from you either throughout this interaction, or if they invested in taking it a little bit further. Eye contact's always a good one, because do you know what? Like, I'd say 9 out of 10 people that I've worked with over the years when it comes to PT. And again, I don't know if this is just the nature of the clients that I maybe appealed most to because of me attitude and sort of me physique. But 9 out of 10 of them were nervous about starting. Yeah. Obviously, it might be the first PT that they've ever done. It might be the first gym that they've ever been in, So we're working on building that relationship and that trust, good eye contact, checking in with people, making sure that, there is a little bit of a connection starting to form, because the stronger that connection is, the more you're going to get out of people, 100%. Then we might be talking about setting expectations for how long the induction's going to last. Whether you'll take questions at the end or whether you'll sort of take them as you go along. I've mentioned before, when I was doing an induction, I would just find out a little bit about the individual, find out their goals, and find out what exercises are probably going to be more beneficial to them, and then use their induction to show them those exercises. If I know that somebody is trying to put on a load of muscle and they're like the big compound exercises, and they've maybe even done some strength training, I'm not going to waste any time showing them, "Now, this is the treadmill, this is the bike, this is the rower." Do you know what I mean? Or the cardio stuff that they're probably not going to really focus on.
Yeah.
I'll be able to say, right, this is the kit that's going to get the most out of you. And again, in that transparency, I could spend 45 minutes taking you around. At the end of the day, you're only going to remember a certain amount of the information. I'm just going to be honest and upfront and say, "Do you know what? Come back to me when you've got any questions beyond what I've shown you today." Yeah. And then again, when it comes to honouring your commitments, when people do come up to you, make sure that, even if it's not immediately, because you can't always just jump to somebody's needs, but at the same time, make sure you do follow up on that commitment and don't keep them waiting, like, "Oh, I'll text you, we'll book something in, I'll text you." Before long, they've given up and potentially even joined another PT or a different gym,
Exactly that.
And you've kind of given somebody a bad experience, which is going to be, it's demotivational at the end of the day, isn't it? So what else have we got? So we've got good body language, happy vibes, confident, and play the part. Always, you guys will know by now, I like a terrible dad joke, like, I can't help myself. Daniel, you're just as bad, mate. You're just as bad.
Got to do it sometimes, man.
That's it. You know what? A little bit of humor goes a long way, though. And you know what? It doesn't have to help people feel relaxed.
Exactly.
When I would say to people, like, he's the treadmill. Keep an eye out for the guy that comes in and runs back. He's committed. But yeah, do you know what? Even just little things like that, and that's not even like keep an eye out for him and take the mic and point and laugh and that sort of thing.
Of course,
but
yeah.
at the same time, it relaxes the gym or the potential gym member in. Okay, do you know what? I might not be the only person in here potentially doing things that looks a little bit daft.
Yeah.
So of course, just relaxing people, and of course, again, good body language. There's a lot to be said for standing, of course, with a bit more of an open stance. I normally would choose hands in pockets, because it looks casual as opposed to arms folded, which looks more, maybe is a little bit more professional, but a little bit more standoffish as well.
Yeah.
I'd be hands in pockets. It's maybe a little bit more informal, a little bit more relaxed. But at the end of the day, that relaxed and that casualness can help sort of just people feel a little bit more relaxed. Definitely. So we're thinking about your body language, and again, what is the aim of the role that you're supposed to be doing or trying to do. And then, of course, a tough one that's hard to fake, displaying genuine interest and a willingness to help.
Yeah.
But you'd like to think, if you found yourself in the position that you're offering this advice to people and people are coming to you, you've picked to be in that position for good reasons. As frustrating it would be if I was in the middle of a PT session and someone would come up like, "Oh, will you help us with this?" or "I can't get to this, and you show us where this is." If I was just at the front desk doing paperwork or whatever, just having me dinner, and someone would come along and say, "Oh, can I have a bit crack about this?" I'd be like, "Pull up a chair." Do you know what I mean? Pull up a chair. I'm not going anywhere in a hurry. Or I'll just finish my dinner and I'll come through and show you, because I've got half an hour before my next session comes in. Like I say, hopefully that willingness will be there in someone who finds themselves in this position. And again, if you guys are considering sort of like the world of fitness as an area that you'd like to look into and maybe move into, of course, there's got to be some kind of innate desire to help, really, at the end of the day, you know, and of course showing that, you know. But again, it goes even that one step further, you know, in that, like, they're showing an interest in somebody's goals and their injuries and the stuff that makes your job a little bit easier. And then you've got listening to their hobbies outside the gym. Do you know what I mean? Stuff that they might not even realize is affecting their training when they're coming in and they're like, oh, I only got 4 hours sleep last night. You know, it's easy to say, oh, like, oh, I didn't sleep very well either. I'm really tired. But there's a PT, I'd be stepping back and thinking, okay, this is the 3rd session in a row he's come in and said he didn't sleep very well.
Yeah.
And his performance was hindered the last 2, like the last twice. Can I start to dig into why he's not sleeping well?
Yeah,
you know, can I improve that sleep quality? You know, again, looking in certain hobbies and stuff like that, you know, you can dig and find a little bit of motivation for certain people. Like I've had guys like Gary over the years that are gamers. I'm a gamer myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've always managed to relate to those sorts of people. But again, I can understand their mentality. And I've said to people before, I'm like, why will you run around an open field and grind XP points and level up and level up and level up? And you're doing the same thing day after day after day. But when it comes to coming into the gym and there's a little bit of repetitiveness, it's a little bit like, oh, I don't want to do that. You know, I'm a little bit shy doing that. Like, it's real life grind at the end of the day. It is. It's just personal development, getting that little bit better. And you know what? There's been people that have phrased it to in that way before, and it's changed the way that they've looked at training exercise. And again, that just came from listening to the fact that and caring about the fact that they like video games. Yeah. You know, so again, you know, there's different ways to sort of link in with people and link up with people. Music was another big one. Just before we finish up, music was another big one that I used to lean into quite a lot. I'm like, if you like your music and we've got the gym to ourselves, I'm not going to have classic rock on that I enjoy. I'm going to have I'm going to have some Clubland classics on. We're going to get some bass on. If that's what you like, and that's going to make you run faster, and that's going to get an extra couple of kilograms on the bar, go for it. But again, do you know what? You've got to listen to people, and you've got to be, like I say, you've got to have a genuine interest in what they're telling you, and not just let it in one ear and out the other. And that's the key to getting the most out of people, I would say. You know, so that last point can't really be stated enough in terms of just showing an interest and being willing to help, for sure. Right, guys, that'll about wrap us up for today then. If we can just look at the last couple of slides quick and get a look at the workbook. So we've got a brand new workbook to do this week, guys. So we are looking at the it was developing practical skills and techniques workbook. So it should be the only workbook that you've got left to do now. So for workbook task 1.1, so imagine that you're a fitness instructor working in a small gym in your local area. Your job role is to meet and greet any new client and run through an induction. Yeah. So in the box, we're going to be describing how you should conduct yourself in this situation. Yeah. So sort of physically, what skills and techniques might you use to make your new member feel at ease as well, which is the sort of thing that we've just been going over as well. How do you relax people? How do you get them to feel confident in you a little bit? So yeah, describing skills and techniques that we're going to use in the situation of meeting new clients and running them through an induction process. And then the next and the last activity that we've got to do, same again, in your workbook it says work in pairs, but of course due to lockdown and due to the fact that we're online, we're going to be doing those individually. So now it's time to put your planning into practice with a little role play exercise. Yeah, so we're going to be thinking about writing in the box a brief description of how you would plan to introduce yourself to clients. Yeah, so what would your plan of attack be? You know, same again, we're thinking about body language, we're thinking about eye contact as well. We can get different skills in there as well. So Yeah, those are the only two exercises that need doing this week. Again, if there's anything that you're not so clear about, or that you're not sure about, or if you're missing a workbook or whatever, please let me know and I'll get that out to you. My email will be in the description below the video. I'm assuming, in fact, I'm going to just copy and paste that into the chat now so you guys have got it as well. And then, is there anything you want to add today, buddy, or not?
No, mate. So yeah, we've got the survey in the description, and then underneath that is the workout vid as well, for you guys to access. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just make sure that you do that survey for us, and as you know, it takes about 30 seconds. So
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
massively appreciate that one, guys. Yeah. So yeah, it is on that last slide as well. Homeworks page 2 in the Developing Practical Skills and Techniques workbook. Again, we've got another fitness video for you to do today, so by all means check that out. Check up the whole playlist as well. Like I say, if today's exercise or session isn't one that you're particularly feeling, you maybe just want to do a stretch, or you want to do your abs, or like a core workout or something, they're all up there now as well, so by all means have a little bit of a look through. And then yeah, we'll be back for week 8 next week. Same again, 10 o'clock till about 12:30. So yeah, as always, guys, stay safe, look after yourselves, stay out of trouble. Give me a shout if you need anything, and if I don't catch you before, I will catch you next Wednesday, guys.
Cracking. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
All right,
And we'll see you guys soon.